Chapter 16. Interesting. This is too interesting. A mediocre person who was abandoned by Jiang Xueqing actually walked in front of her and challenged her. Hee, I really want to know what Jiang Xueqing is thinking right now. The two of them went up the stage. Jiang Xueqing's clear eyes did not waver in the slightest. She looked at Su Yu as if he was a stranger, cold beyond compare. Even though Su Yu had defied the trend and stepped into the ranks of Silver Peak, she did not feel the slightest bit of regret. Su Yu, admit defeat. You're no match for me. Not in the past, not now, not in the future, never in the future. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with wind and snow. Her words did not have the slightest bit of warmth. Su Yu's expression was indifferent. He looked at her as if he was looking at a stranger, remaining silent. It was a waste of his saliva and energy to speak to such a heartless woman who thought so highly of herself. He quietly waited for the judge to announce the start of the duel. Other than that, he was unwilling to say anything more to her. Receiving a silent response, Jiang Xueqing thought that he was being stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat. Shaking her head slightly, her brows creased. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with disgust. Unrepentant, born in poverty, you should lower yourself and stubbornly refuse to admit defeat. What's the use of that other than asking for trouble? Do you know why I left you? Because you have no abilities, no background, yet you hold onto your pitiful pride. You hit a wall everywhere and even caused me to be looked down upon by others. Jiang Xueqing's tone was filled with reprimand. She seemed to have recalled the past, her hatred exploding forth. That's why I left you. I chose my own life. Do you see that in the past I was slightly weaker than you? But now I have far surpassed you. In the future, the gap between us will only grow wider. Jiang Xueqing's shoulders trembled slightly, her face filled with relief. She felt that she had finally walked onto a bright path. When she looked at Su Yu again, her eyes regained their coldness and heartlessness. Su Yu, you are not worthy of me. You are not worthy of me in the past, and you will never be worthy of me in the future. Remember my words. You will never be worthy of me. You will never be worthy of me. These words were shouted in front of thousands of people, in front of the entire school. Everyone looked at each other. Some were sympathetic, some were gloating, and some were disgusted. In a hidden location, a woman as beautiful as a fairy from a painting frowned slightly. She glanced at Jiang Xueqing with some displeasure. Her gaze landed on Su Yu. The beautiful eyes of the celestial being contained a shred of sympathy and gentleness. So, his name is Su Yu. He is clearly a genius in archery, and his talent in cultivation is not bad. Yet, he received such treatment. That Jiang Xueqing will regret it in the future. Jiang Zhisher secretly mocked him. Fighting over a woman with the little duke would only lead to such a sad ending. Su Yu was the first person who had ever been told by a woman in the past that he would never be worthy of her. At first, Su Yu did not want to bother with her. However, what he did not like was that this woman's words were becoming more and more outrageous. It was as if it was Su Yu's fault that she had fallen into someone else's embrace. Stretching his body lazily, Su Yu shook his head and said, "Since you've become a whore, don't put up a memorial arch, okay? You were the one who was vain and threw yourself into the arms of another man, but you pushed the responsibility to me. Also, please don't think too highly of yourself. Su Yu, am not interested in a frivolous woman like you," Su Yu said indifferently. He looked at Jiang Xueqing from afar, as if she was a stranger. The crowd was in an uproar. The Su Yu who had once knelt before Jiang Xueqing and begged her to change her mind. The Su Yu who had once drowned himself in a lake because of love. He had actually called Jiang Xueqing a whore in front of everyone. Not only was the crowd dumbfounded, even Jiang Xueqing herself was stunned. In her memory, Su Yu had always treated her like a treasure. He held her in his hands, afraid that she would shatter. He had also held her in his mouth, afraid that she would melt. He did not even dare to speak loudly. Seeing that she was the slightest bit unhappy, he would be so scared that he did not even dare to breathe loudly. When she scolded him, not only did he not dare to get angry, he would even laugh along with her. She had never thought that such a Su Yu would one day scold her as a whore in front of everyone. For a moment, she even suspected that the person standing in front of her was Su Yu. It felt like they were two completely different people. Coming to her senses, Jiang Xueqing's jade-like face flushed red. Where was her dignity in front of the entire school? However, she did not think that when she reprimanded Su Yu in front of the whole school, as if he was a good-for-nothing, he would never be worthy of her. At that time, how could Su Yu not have lost all his dignity? In the end, she only had her own selfish eyes and had never cared about Su Yu's feelings. Jiang Xueqing felt that countless people were staring at her. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. This was a humiliation that she had never experienced in her life. A wave of hatred, thick hatred, filled her heart. Jiang Xueqing was so angry that her body trembled. Her breasts rose and fell violently. Su Yu, I hate you. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Hate all you want. Su Yu lightly shrugged his shoulders. Her hatred could not cause any ripples in his heart. After saying this, Su Yu tilted his head to look at the judge. I say, Jiang Zhisher, have you seen enough? Actually, the duel should have started a long time ago, but Jiang Zhisher was happy to see Su Yu make a fool of himself. He pretended to organize his words to stall for time. Jiang Zhisher's eyes flashed with anger. Just as he was about to scold Su Yu, he met Housemaster Ye's dissatisfied gaze. This duel had dragged on for too long. Knowing that he could not delay any longer, he could only suppress his anger and announce, Duel, start. Su Yu, I will not let you off. Jiang Xueqing was filled with hatred. She lunged forward like a maniac, her attacks vicious. Colorful ribbon in the sky. Jiang Xueqing attacked furiously. Colorful ribbon in the sky was a medium-level cultivation technique. 3 ribbons shot out from her sleeves, dancing in her palms like 3 whips. Creak. One of the ribbons brushed past the ground, scraping off a layer of skin like a knife. If it had landed on a human, at least a layer of flesh would have been scraped off. This Jiang Xueqing, her attacks are vicious. Just watch. If Su Yu is no match for her, he should know to surrender. He is not stupid. Jiang Xueqing's heart was merciless. She only had one thought, and that was to torture him. She wanted to torture this damned man to the greatest extent possible. Don't even think of leaving the arena unscathed. Hearing her threatening words, Su Yu's expression turned cold. The moment the ribbons attacked, Su Yu's face turned cold. His figure moved like the wind, punching and kicking. Universal Underworld. Jiang Xueqing's 3 ribbons looked like they were moving at the same time, but Su Yu's eyesight was good. He could see that the 3 ribbons were moving in a certain rhythm. As long as he attacked them one by one, he would be able to break this technique. In a split second, he attacked. First, he punched the first ribbon quickly and accurately repelling it from the side. Then, without any gap between attacks, he attacked with his leg, kicking the second ribbon that was about to move. Immediately after, he punched the last ribbon. Finally, his leg was like a whip flying across the sky, accurately kicking Jiang Xueqing's chest. Jiang Xueqing's expression changed. She immediately used her arms to block the kick, but a huge force was transmitted to her. What was more frightening was that her opponent's punches and kicks did not stop. They were as dense as a storm, not giving her any chance to breathe. For consecutive hits, 8 consecutive hits, 16 consecutive hits. Finally, Jiang Xueqing could not withstand the huge force. With a pathetic cry, she was kicked out of the arena by Su Yu. This was the first time Su Yu had used Universal Underworld at full force. It was used against the woman he used to be with. There was no mercy. Standing on the arena, Su Yu looked down at the injured Jiang Xueqing, who was lying on the ground, her eyes filled with shock. Looks like you're not as strong as you imagined. You were weaker than me in the past, and you're still weaker than me now. He could not be bothered to look at her. He returned to the center of the arena and closed his eyes to rest. I actually lost. A level 3 lost to a level 2, and I lost to the man I had once abandoned. She felt that she had left Su Yu far behind on the path of cultivation. But the reality was that Su Yu had left her behind. In that moment, Jiang Xueqing could not accept the cruel reality. In her eyes, Su Yu was only a weak and cowardly person with mediocre talent. But today, after she had improved by leaps and bounds, when she thought she was going to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat, just as she was about to soar into the sky, Su Yu suddenly struck, slapping her down from the sky with a single slap. Such a cruel reality was like a bucket of cold water splashed on her, drenching her heart. Qin Feng rushed over, glaring angrily at Su Yu. He then supported Jiang Xueqing with concern, but was rejected by her, not allowing him to touch her. Struggling to get up, Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with hatred. "Brother Feng, defeat him for me. As long as you defeat him, I will be yours." Jiang Xueqing's gaze was resolute. She knew that Qin Feng was lusting after her beauty. She also knew that the only thing that attracted Qin Feng to her was her beauty. Thus, she would not let Qin Feng touch her easily, as this was her only asset. Qin Feng was overjoyed, his heart thumping. Jiang Xueqing was finally willing to let him fight. Everything, as long as she defeated Su Yu. But according to the Institute's rules, gold students could not challenge silver students. The goal was to protect silver students from being bullied. But there was an exception. That was the gold competition in a month. The top 3 gold students could invite the top 3 silver students to compete on stage, highlighting the gap between gold and silver students and encouraging silver students to improve. The silver students who were invited could not disobey. "All right, in a month, I will easily defeat him and obtain the honor of the Gold King." Qin Feng was elated. According to their agreement, after obtaining the honor of the Gold King, Jiang Xueqing would agree to his engagement. Once he became the Golden King, he would be engaged to her, and he would be able to enjoy her beautiful body. Just the thought of conquering such a beauty and riding her made Qin Feng excited. He couldn't wait for the next month to come. "No, a month is too long. I can't wait." As long as Su Yu was around, she would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Qin Feng's mind cleared up a little. He thought for a moment and said, "How about I think of a way to chase him out of the institute?" Jiang Xueqing coldly nodded. "All right, ruin his future." Jiang Xueqing was afraid that Su Yu would rise higher and higher. She was afraid that she would regret it one day. Housemaster Ye's eyes flashed. What a powerful brat. Universal stroke is a difficult technique to cultivate, but he has cultivated it to stage 3 upper class. He is just one step away from achieving the top class of unlimited consecutive strikes. After defeating Jiang Xueqing, Su Yu's popularity instantly reached its peak. There were many cheering for him. Chapter 17. Su Yu used his own actions to get rid of the humiliation. Su Sun let out a long sigh, feeling both envious and dejected. The atmosphere of the audience was ignited to a climax. Su Yu, the dark horse, was too strong. Simply amazing. Chen Tianan stared coldly at the arena, a cruel smile on his face. "I didn't expect him to make it this far." Chen Feng clenched his fists and said bitterly, "No matter how strong he is no match for my brother." Everyone was looking forward to Su Yu's next battle. Semi-finals, last match, Su Yu versus Xian Lifei. Xian Lifei's strength did not need to be described. Su San was easily defeated by her. "Hee, little brother is very strong. You'll have to go easy on me later." Xian Lifei smiled, but deep in her pupils was a hint of coldness. Before Li Mingho left, he had instructed her to teach this kid a lesson, so she would let the purple-blooded bats bite him twice to poison him and then give him a few punches. Su Yu smiled and cupped his hands. "Senior, please show mercy. Let the match begin," Jiang Zhisher announced indifferently. Xian Lifei smiled and patted her colorful pocket. 2 purple-blooded bats flew out. Su Yu immediately prepared himself for battle. The threat of ultrasound was smaller the further away one was from it. The best way to avoid ultrasound was to stay away from the bats. However, the 2 bats were extremely fast. Su San could not avoid the bats and was defeated by Xian Lifei. "Go!" Xian Lifei whistled. Whoosh! The two purple-blooded bats immediately flew towards Su Yu at an incredible speed. He could no longer hide. Xian Lifei was too strong. Any mistake would result in defeat. Cloud Shadow Duckweed Trace. Su Yu gave a low grunt, displaying the lightness technique that he had hidden for a long time. His figure was like the wind, leaping lightly like the shadow of a cloud, graceful and natural. It was also like duckweed drifting on the waves, catching a glimpse of it. The audience only saw a blur in front of their eyes. Su Yu had leaped 3 meters forward at an exaggerated speed. His speed was more than twice as fast as the purple-blooded bats. Xian Lifei hid to the side, secretly waiting for Su Yu to be poisoned. How could she guard against Su Yu hiding so deeply? Xian Lifei quickly summoned the bat to fly back. At the same time, she spread her legs and ran away with a cry. How could Su Yu do as she wished? The speed of the first level, Cloud Shadow track, was not inferior to Xian Lifei's. The space on the stage was narrow. At the same speed, there was not much space to escape. After a few breaths, Xian Lifei was shocked and angry. She had no choice but to confront Su Yu directly. Blue Sky Underworld. Su Yu used his strongest offensive technique without any hesitation in close combat. At this moment, the purple-blooded bats were very close behind him. He had to end this battle quickly. Xian Lifei was aware of the situation. She resisted with all her might, delaying Su Yu. Once the purple-blooded bats arrived, she would take control of the situation. Unfortunately, her expertise lay in controlling demonic beasts, not close combat. Blue Sky Underworld's punches and kicks were extremely fast and did not stop. They were like raindrops, airtight. The seemingly long 16 consecutive strikes were completed in a breath's time. The last kick was so powerful that Xian Lifei was kicked in the soft chest and flew out of the ring. At this time, the purple blood bats had just arrived. Having lost their master, they stopped attacking and flew back to their master's side. Xian Lifei clutched her aching chest, her face blushing as she glared at Su Yu. Really, he dared to kick anywhere. She had lost this battle unjustly. The opponent had hidden such a powerful movement technique. If not for that, how could she have been defeated? But no matter what, she had lost. She reluctantly exited the ring. As she passed through the dark tunnel, Qin Feng flashed out. Xian Lifei, do something for me, and I'll give you a top-grade spirit elixir. Xian Lifei's expression changed as she exclaimed, top-grade spirit elixir? A low-grade spirit elixir required 100 taels of silver. A middle-grade spirit elixir required 500 taels of silver. But a top-grade spirit elixir required a whole 2,500 taels of silver. Even if she hunted in the Twilight Mountains for a whole year, she would not be able to obtain so many taels of silver. Apart from people with illustrious family backgrounds like the Junior Duke, who could easily come up with so many taels of silver, what do you want me to do? Of course, you can forget about touching me. Xian Lifei's beautiful eyes were blazing, but she was also vigilant. Qin Feng had also had designs on her. Qin Feng curled his lips in disdain. He was about to obtain Jiang Xueqing, and Xian Lifei had no interest in it for the time being. I want you to do this for me. Qin Feng cautiously handed over a piece of paper that recorded what he wanted Xian Lifei to do. After Xian Lifei memorized it, he burned it, leaving no evidence. His father was at a critical moment. As his son, he could not add to his father's troubles. Xian Lifei was shocked when she saw it. She hesitated for a moment, then clenched her teeth and agreed. Okay, but the elixir must be given to me first. After some thought, Qin Feng slightly nodded and reluctantly handed it to her. Although he was a junior duke, it did not mean he could spend money as he pleased. His monthly allowance was only about 3,000 taels of silver. Now, he had taken out 2,500 taels of top-grade spirit elixir in one go. It must be done. Qin Feng disappeared into the darkness. With his identity and family background, he was not afraid that Xian Lifei would steal the spirit elixir and escape. Xian Lifei nodded with a smile. Of course. Looking back at Su Yu, Xian Lifei smiled sweetly. Little brother, I'm sorry. For my spirit elixir, I'll sacrifice myself. In the arena, Jiang Zhishir could not believe it. After a long time, he took a deep breath and coldly announced, "Semi-finals, Su Yu wins." In the VIP seats, Vice Housemaster Yi had a strange look in his eyes. His indifferent face had a rare trace of a gratified smile. Cloud Shadow is such a difficult light body cultivation technique, and none of the gold students have successfully cultivated it. This boy's comprehension is quite amazing. How could he know that Su Yu could cheat? Others could comprehend it for 1 day, but he could comprehend it for 10 days. Others could comprehend it for 10 days, but he had already comprehended it for 100 days. Therefore, he had the opportunity to comprehend the light body cultivation technique that others found difficult to cultivate. The audience was thoroughly excited. The battle for the Silver King title, the ultimate battle, was finally about to begin. Su Yu, go! Defeat Chen Tianan. Defeat him, and the next Silver King will be you. The students were excited, especially the silver students who had been in the middle and lower reaches for a long time. The Silver King, in their minds, was the supreme king, an existence that they had to look up to, a level that they could never touch. But Su Yu, who was also at the bottom of the silver class, had turned the tables and fought with the dazzling Silver King for the crown. In an instant, Su Yu had become the spiritual sustenance of countless silver students, the target they chased after, the dark horse that they placed their hopes on. The crowd was boiling. Wild roars, shouts, and roars accompanied their boiling blood, accompanied by their expectations, accompanied by their wishes, majestically surging out. The sky was filled with crazy roars, shaking the earth, echoing throughout the entire training institute. No one could remain calm. No one could remain calm. No one could act as if nothing had happened. They were all infected by the boiling blood. The strongest dark horse in history and the strongest Silver King, fighting for the supreme crown. Jiang Zhishir, with disdain in his eyes, shouted, "Silver King, Chen Tianan, go! Chen Tianan, go! Go!" The echoing shouts stirred their blood, boiled their hearts, and responded to their eagerness. Chen Tianan, with the silver crown on his head, rose from the unique silver throne. A majestic aura, looking down on the world, approached. "Very good. You being able to come this far is enough for me to make a move." Chen Tianan, the strongest among the silver students, approached step by step. Chen Feng gazed at his brother's back, his eyes full of worship. Stepping into the arena, Chen Tianan took off the crown. Jiang Zhishir took it back and announced indifferently, "The battle for the Silver King officially begins. The winner will be the new Silver King." Chen Tianan stood with his hand behind his back, not making a move, but staring coldly at Su Yu. "Make your move, or you won't have the chance to." No one in the audience felt arrogant, because the Silver King had the right. Su Yu smiled lightly. "No need. I've said before, the Silver King has changed owners today, and my methods are fair and square, not your charity." Chen Tianan's face was cold, his voice hoarse and harsh. "Your courage is commendable, but unfortunately, you overestimate yourself. How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the moon?" "What do you think of Xian Lifiai's ability?" Chen Tianan suddenly asked. Su Yu pondered for a moment, then gave a fair assessment. "Very strong." "Then let me tell you, a week ago, she challenged me, and I defeated her in 1 move." Chen Tianan said indifferently. The audience was in an uproar. Xian Lifiai, with her powerful abilities, defeated her in 1 move? He is indeed the Silver King, the one with the strongest potential, truly terrifying. Su Yu's expression was grave. Chen Tianan was the strongest opponent he had ever faced, but he would never admit defeat. "How can I know the outcome without a fight?" Su Yu took a deep breath and prepared himself for battle. Chen Tianan stood with his hands behind his back. "All right, I'll reluctantly make a move against you this once." "Angry Buddha!" Chen Tianan let out a low growl, his skin glowing a faint bronze color, like a living bronze man. Lord Ye's eyes revealed a look of surprise. "That's right. He has already cultivated the low-grade Buddha's Fury Vajra technique to the consummate level. His skin and flesh are indestructible, and ordinary attacks will not be able to harm him. Ghost Shadow Technique. Chun Tianan growled again, displaying another technique. The fingernails on his palms gradually turned a gloomy green, glowing with a cold luster. An eerie aura emanated from his fingernails. At the same time, his eyes glowed scarlet, and his lips began to turn a dark green. From afar, he looked like a ghost. Not to mention fighting, just looking at him would make one's heart go cold. Housemaster Yi was surprised. Ghost Shadow Technique, a top-notch medium-level technique with power comparable to a top-notch technique, has been cultivated to stage 2 by him. Not simple. At once, Suyu felt a cold and gloomy aura, and a thick sense of threat assaulted his senses. Especially the 10 gloomy green ghost claws. Suyu could feel that even a touch would be extremely dangerous. Swish! Chun Tianan crossed 3 meters with 1 step, closing in on Suyu in 3 steps. The cold ghost claws viciously clawed at Suyu's chest. Suyu was on full alert, immediately activating Cloud Shadow. Like the falling shadow of a cloud, like duckweed in a river, he narrowly avoided the attack. Creak! Suyu dodged, but a corner of his clothes was touched by the gloomy green nails. Chapter 18. What a strong poison. Suyu's expression changed slightly, but he did not panic. Taking advantage of the fact that Chun Tianan's palms were still weak, he suddenly attacked. Universal Stroke. Suyu seized the opportunity and quickly attacked. His fists and legs were like shadows, connected smoothly. Every punch was followed by a kick. The attack was fierce and continuous. Chun Tianan had to use his arms to block his chest. Clang! Strangely, Suyu's fists and legs felt like they were hitting an iron plate when they landed on Chun Tianan's arms. Chun Tianan was only forced back half a step with each attack. 16 consecutive attacks had only pushed him back 8 steps, causing no damage. The angry Vajra Buddha's defense was amazing. It's useless. How can a firefly compete with the sun and moon? Chun Tianan laughed coldly. Taking advantage of the end of Suyu's 16 consecutive attacks, he attacked Suyu's chest. Creak! Suyu dodged, but the front of his shirt turned into pus. One attack was useless. Suyu's expression darkened, but his eyes glowed. During the consecutive attacks, he had been multitasking. Sensing that his opponent's skin was indestructible, he immediately turned to look for his opponent's weakness. Although it was only for a short period of time, he still noticed something strange. That was, when Chun Tianan used the Ghost Shadow technique, the angry Vajra Buddha would pause for a moment, and a palm-sized muscle on his chest would return to its normal color. Using 2 techniques at the same time required strong coordination, and Chun Tianan had not yet achieved a smooth connection. But that moment was too short, and it would only be exposed when Chun Tianan attacked. Rushing forward would be extremely dangerous. With a pensive look, Suyu continuously dodged and occasionally counterattacked. The 2 of them, one chasing and the other fleeing, intertwined with each other on the stage. 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves. After more than 60 moves, they were still locked in a stalemate. Although Chun Tianan was powerful, Suyu's movement techniques were extraordinary. Of course, Chun Tianan firmly held the upper hand. Chun Tianan's eyes were cold. Suyu had defeated Xian Li Fei, so he was not simple to be able to last so long against him, but Chun Tianan would not be able to last long. The head judge, Jiang Zhishir, was sneering in his heart, but his face was fair. Suyu, if you only run and do not fight within 10 moves, there will be no winner. Chun Tianan is declared the winner. The audience felt that it was unfair. Suyu hadn't been defeated yet. He was only at a disadvantage. It was obvious that he was trying to make things difficult for Suyu. Suyu creased his brows and coldly glanced at Jiang Zhishir. After defeating his son, Jiang Fan, this person bore a grudge and was biased. As such, he could only use that move. Suyu no longer dodged. Instead of retreating, he advanced and faced the attack head-on. Chun Tianan smirked, finally not hiding anymore. Dark Ghost skill. The ghastly green fingernails left a string of broken lines in the air. All of a sudden, Su Yu's pupils turned into crystal pupils. In an instant, time and space around him slowed down. Chen Tianan's every move slowed down by 30% in his eyes. The flaw in his chest was clearly visible. Universal stroke. Su Yu bellowed. In the eyes of others, Su Yu's speed had suddenly increased by more than 30%. Shua. 16 consecutive strikes were completed in a breath's time. Bang, bang, bang. Chen Tianan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. What's going on? How did the opponent's speed suddenly soar to level 4 lower tier? Lord Ye's eyes were filled with surprise. Chen Tianan could not believe it. How is this possible? His body flying backward told Chen Tianan that everything was real. He was actually going to lose. His cold eyes flashed with viciousness. If I lose, don't think you will get away with it. Whoosh! A ray of black light shot out from Chen Tianan's eyes. It was extremely fast. The crowd only saw a blur before the black shadow entered Su Yu's body. Su Yu's whole body shook. He felt as if some obscure and indescribable thing had broken into his brain, fiercely destroying everything. He immediately understood what this was, the rumored secret technique of the soul. The soul was the weakest part of a person. Once it was attacked, the best-case scenario would be physical discomfort, and the worst-case scenario would be the soul shattering and death. Lord Ye's expression changed. Not good. It's demonic eyes. With Su Yu's cultivation level, his mind may be permanently damaged, and he will become a demented person. He wanted to save Su Yu, but he was too far away. Su Yu's brain suddenly felt a piercing pain. His fragile soul trembled in unease. The cold, corrosive energy quickly destroyed his brain. Seeing the impending danger, the divine nine-dragon cauldron in his brain gently vibrated. A wisp of spiritual liquid flowed out of the small cauldron and slid down the cauldron. The pain quickly weakened, and the obscure thing that had invaded his brain was erased. In the eyes of others, Su Yu's body had merely trembled for a moment before recovering. Only he knew the danger he had just been in. With a cold gaze, Su Yu activated Cloud Shadow and leaped forward, catching up to Chen Tianan, who was flying backward. A fist filled with blood energy smashed heavily into Chen Tianan's head. How could you be fine? Chen Tianan's face took a heavy blow. His lips were smashed by the huge force, blood spurting out and several teeth falling out. Su Yu did not stop. He kicked Chen Tianan's waist. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. The furious Su Yu's fists and legs were like shadows, his attacks airtight, until Chen Tianan fell from midair to the bottom of the arena. Wah! Heavily falling off the arena, Chen Tianan spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body was in so much pain that he fainted. Everyone fixed their eyes on it and gasped. Not only were many of Chen Tianan's bones broken, but his face was badly mutilated. He looked miserable and seriously injured. Only then did Su Yu gradually restrain the anger in his eyes. If not for the help of the divine nine-dragon cauldron, would he not have become an idiot? Chen Tianan was vicious. How could Su Yu be lenient? Jiang Zhishi's eyes were gloomy. The student that the Duke wanted to deal with had become the Silver King. Dealing with him in the future would be a variable. No way. He could not be allowed to become the Silver King. How dare you? Jiang Zhishi's eyes flashed. He slammed the table and leaped onto the arena, angrily trying to capture Su Yu. How dare you use such a vicious method in a friendly match? Kneel and be captured. The mountainous pressure made it difficult for Su Yu to resist. Jiang Zhishi was a level 4 peak martial artist. How could Su Yu resist? Old bastard. Abusing his position to avenge a personal grudge. Su Yu was not the same as he was in the past. Even if he cannot win, he would not sit and wait for death. Netherworld Azure Drop. Under the intense pressure of the blood, Su Yu was unwilling to resist. 2 consecutive hits. 4 consecutive hits. 8 consecutive hits. 16 consecutive hits. How dare you resist? That's one more crime. Jiang Zhishi's face was cold as he easily blocked the attacks. After the 16 consecutive hits, he closed in. A palm filled with a strong force slammed into Su Yu's head. How is this a capture? It was clearly a serious injury. It looked like Su Yu was about to be hit for no reason. Whoosh! Suddenly, from the VIP spectator stands, a terrifying air current shot out. Poof! Jiang Zhishir was instantly hit. As a level 4 peak martial artist, he could not withstand a single blow. He was sent flying several meters by the air current. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, and a bloody hole appeared on the side of his waist. What a disgrace! A cold voice came from the VIP seats. Housemaster Ye's long white robe and black hair fluttered without wind. His cold eyes were filled with indifference. The students could not see that Chen Tianan had used such a dangerous soul technique. How could Jiang Zhishir not see it? He had stood by and not stopped Chen Tianan, but instead of pursuing the matter, he took the opportunity to attack Su Yu. What a disgrace! Jiang Zhishir was in pain, his mouth full of blood. His heart was filled with hatred and fear. But he did not refute in court. Family scandals should not be aired in public. Making a scene in public would be a great loss to his reputation. Therefore, he clenched his teeth, secretly glared at Su Yu, and dragged his seriously injured body away. Many of the students were baffled. Su Yu had cruelly injured Chen Tianan, and Jiang Zhishir had captured Su Yu out of his duty as a referee. How could he be seriously injured? Housemaster Yi was unwilling to explain. If Jiang Zhishir's dirty deeds were announced in public, it would be a stain on the Institute's reputation. All right, the winner of this Silver King battle is Su Yu. Housemaster Yi walked onto the stage and personally placed the silver crown on Su Yu's head. You did well. Keep up the good work and strive to become a gold student in a month. Housemaster Yi smiled, patted Su Yu's shoulder, and turned to leave. Su Yu's heart was filled with respect. Thank you, Housemaster. Without Housemaster Yi to uphold justice, he would not have escaped serious injury. Su Yu had become famous in one battle. The Silver King had changed owners. Su Yu had become the new Silver King. At this moment, Su Yu's student number plate was shining with a silver light, faintly suffused with a faint golden color. It would soon become a golden student number plate. In a secret place, the celestial being gazed at Su Yu's departing gaze and smiled. Beside her, there was a person. He was handsome, tall, and had a beautiful face that made women jealous. But the corners of his eyes were raised. They were a pair of peach blossom eyes, giving people a strange feeling. The handsome youth laughed involuntarily. Senior Xia, I did not expect you to be interested in the silver level battle. In other words, the silver assessment was boring. If anyone had been present, they would have been horrified. This unbelievably beautiful youth was the Gold King, the strongest of the gold students, Fang Qingzhou. His qualifications were amazing, and his strength had reached level 4 upper tier of the martial path. Among the gold students, he was invincible. No one had ever been able to withstand more than 3 moves from him. Defeating the enemy in 3 moves, the undefeated legend, Fang Qingzhou. He was the idol of many female students. But the rumors about Fang Qingzhou were not good. It was said that many girls from good families had been tricked into bed by him, losing their chastity. There was even a girl who committed suicide by jumping into a lake out of humiliation. Strangely, the Institute had only settled the girl's family, but had not punished Fang Qingzhou. The celestial being, somewhat disgusted with this person, replied indifferently, I just want to see if there are any rising stars. Fang Qingzhou did not hide his contempt and sneered. No matter how strong the silver qualifications are, there's still trash that has been eliminated. Although these words were harsh, they were true. Silver students were unqualified. It was not an exaggeration to say they were trash. The celestial being frowned. That may not be the case. I am very optimistic about the new generation of Silver King. He has improved very quickly. With that, the celestial being turned and left. Him? That's Su Yu? Fang Qingzhou looked at Su Yu's back, frowned, and shook his head. Just like that, a life at the bottom for life. Chapter 19. Senior Xia, there is still half a month before the full moon night. Are we going to the ancient ruins? Fang Qingzhou was half a step behind, greedily sniffing the fragrance of the beauty. The ancient ruins were in the Twilight Mountains. Once, Feng Qingzhou had pestered the celestial being to go hunting with him. They had accidentally discovered it in a secret place, and it had become a secret shared by the two. The celestial being nodded. Yes, after the gold assessment, the top 10 demons of the Institute will be sent to the imperial capital as representatives. Before leaving, I want to study the murals and the ruins again. Okay, I'll go too, Feng Qingzhou said, his eyes shining with a demonic light. The celestial being raised her eyebrows slightly and nodded lightly. Okay. First, the ruins were discovered by the two of them together. It was understandable that the other party wanted to go together. Second, Feng Qingzhou's background was so terrifying that she could not refuse. Watching the celestial being's graceful figure disappear into the distance, Feng Qingzhou became lustful. He licked his lips in excitement. Little girl, my patience is limited. In half a month, the rice will be cooked, and even your grandfather, the housemaster, will not dare to do anything to me. At night, when Suyu dragged his tired body back to his dormitory, he found several institute administrators in his dormitory, sorting out his things. Wusong stood to one side, not daring to breathe. This is... Suyu asked. The person in the lead was a middle-aged woman at the fourth heaven. Her face was cold. When she looked back at Suyu, she stopped what she was doing and squeezed out a warm smile. You are the Silver King. You deserve a better environment. It turned out that the Silver Kings of each generation had a single courtyard, next to the 100 gold students' dormitories. The environment was clean, elegant, and quiet, suitable for cultivation. Moreover, there were servants to take care of their daily needs. Among the Silver students, only the Silver King could enjoy it. Wusong gasped, a complicated look in his eyes. Once upon a time, Suyu was just a punching bag, a good-for-nothing. But now, he had soared to the sky, becoming the Silver King above all others. If he had known this day would come, he would have befriended him. Unfortunately, amid his envy and jealousy, and in the corridor and dormitory, Suyu left and arrived at his new home. Suyu was extremely satisfied with the clean courtyard, which had 3 female servants who were there to serve him. It was an elegant place that was far away from human habitation. In the future, there was no need for him to cultivate in the mountains. The courtyard was enough. The difference in treatment between those with power and those without power is like the difference between heaven and earth, Suyu thought to himself. After dismissing the servants, Suyu immediately recuperated and cultivated. The next morning, in the courtyard, whoosh, his fists and legs crisscrossed. For consecutive hits. 8 consecutive hits. 16 consecutive hits. 17 consecutive hits. 18 consecutive hits. 19 consecutive hits. After recovering, Suyu was pleasantly surprised to discover that after a whole day of fighting the previous day, his universal stroke had been greatly refined. The heaven underworld that had stagnated had actually been honed to perfection. Now, he could attack continuously without stopping. Infinite combo. Apart from the fact that he had used Heaven Underworld many times in battles with others, the most important reason was that Heaven Underworld had been tempered by Jiang Zhishi's powerful qi and blood. If that old fogey knew that I had broken through to the top class of Heaven Underworld thanks to him, I wonder what expression he would have. At the same time, Suyu unexpectedly discovered that in his mind, the 10-inch purple dragon carved in the divine 9-dragon cauldron had been baptized by the spirit liquid in the cauldron. The color of the crystal was very similar to the color of the crystal in Suyu's eyes. With a thought, Suyu revolved his pupils. A moment later, his face was filled with joy. His eyesight had improved once again. Before, he could see tiny objects 200 feet away. Now, he could see the leg of a mosquito 500 feet away. In other words, the situation within a mile could be clearly seen as long as there was nothing in the way. Such eyesight could be called nature-defying. What made him even more happy was that after he revolved his pupils, time was accelerated by 2 times. In a quiet state. In the past, 1 hour in the outside world was 10 hours for him. Now 1 hour in the outside world was 20 hours for him. In a state of boiling blood, He was in a state of combat. In the past, his own time was accelerated by 30%. Now, his own time was accelerated by 40%. If I meet Chun Tianan again, I am confident that I can suppress him with just universal stroke. Suyu clenched his fists. Thump, thump. Brother Suyu, I have come to find you. Xian Leafy Eye was outside the courtyard, her sweet face enviously looking at the Silver King's courtyard. Suyu was a little surprised. Why was Xian Leafy Eye looking for him? What is it? Suyu stood at the door of the courtyard, with no intention of inviting her in. Xian Leafy Eye pouted, stingy. I'm looking for you because I want to join forces to hunt demonic beasts in the Twilight Mountains. Hunt demonic beasts? Suyu was a little tempted. It was difficult to buy enough training materials with the silver given by the students. Come in. Suyu invited her in. Xian Leafy Eye quietly said, let's talk in your room. I have top secret information. A ray of light flashed in Suyu's eyes. A moment later, in Suyu's room. The room was simple but very clean. The large white bed was spotless. The windows were bright and clean, simple and quiet. Xian Leafy Eye took a deep breath as if enjoying it. She said enviously, I envy you. She sat on the bed as she spoke. Tell me, what top secret information? Xian Leafy Eye lay back on the large bed. Lying flat on her back, her exquisite curves were outlined, especially the pair of proud snowy peaks on her chest, standing proudly. Xian Leafy Eye said, I heard that in the Twilight Mountains, someone found 2 demonic beasts guarding a cave. There are very precious spiritual items inside, and even the gold students are tempted. Oh, 2 level 1 demonic beasts guarding it together? So he was a little tempted. Demonic beasts were slightly intelligent, and usually guarded treasures. Besides me, who else did you invite? Suyu asked. Just the 2 of them were not enough to deal with a level 1 demonic beast. Clang, what are you doing? This is the courtyard of the Silver King. Below, there was a commotion, and the maid screamed. Get out of the way. We receive a report that Suyu defiled female students. Suyu's expression changed, and he suddenly turned back. Xian Leafy Eye's expression changed, and she quickly took off her clothes, revealing only a small undergarment. She also rubbed it, messing up her clothes. Then she took out chili and rubbed it in her eyes. A few drops of tears rolled down her cheeks, and she lay on the bed, looking like she had been violated. How could Suyu not understand? Framing and framing. Swish! Suyu took a big step forward, and his palm grabbed Xian Leafy Eye's fragrant shoulder. Xian Leafy Eye resisted with a cold expression. Thump! Thump! The sound of hurried footsteps came from downstairs. Time was of the essence. Once they broke in, the scene before them would be unexplainable. Netherworld blue sky. At the critical moment, Suyu used all his strength. Xian Leafy Eye sneered. I was prepared. With a flip of her palm, a silver arm guard appeared between her arms so that she could block the opponent's consecutive attacks. For consecutive attacks. 8 consecutive attacks. 16 consecutive attacks. 32 consecutive attacks. 64 consecutive attacks. Xian Leafy Eye's sneer froze, and cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Her sweet little face was filled with pain. What was going on? Didn't the opponent only have 16 attacks? Why did it seem like there was an unlimited number of attacks? One could imagine how serious it would be to suffer 64 consecutive attacks in a breath's time in the same area. Dripping water could penetrate a stone, let alone something as strong as fists and legs. Crack! The arm guard cracked. Xian Leafy Eye let out a cry and was kicked into the bed. Not only was her blood boiling, but her head was also dizzy. At this moment, Suyu attacked like lightning, grabbing the clothes she had taken off and quickly twisting them into a rope. Then, with extreme speed, he tied her up and hung her outside the window. Before he left, he grabbed a dirty rag and stuffed it into her mouth. The courtyard was located in a quiet area. If one did not stand under the window, it would be difficult to notice that there was a half-naked girl hanging there. Clang! At this moment, the door was kicked open, and a group of people entered. Leading the group was Jiang Zhishur, who had not fully recovered from his injuries. Search! Jiang Zhishur looked around coldly. his eyes filled with murderous intent. The people who followed him and did not wait for his orders and searched everywhere. Under the bed, in the cupboard, in the box, they searched everywhere but found nothing. Everyone looked at each other, quietly waiting for Jiang Zhishu to speak. Su Yu coldly scolded, "What are you doing?" Jiang Zhishu stared at him, his tone cold. "We receive a report that you defiled a girl from the same school. Where did you hide her?" "Huh?" Su Yu was so angry that he laughed. Good. Deacon Jiang. Oh, Deacon Jiang, if you want to punish me, just say it. I won't let this matter rest if you accuse me of defiling female students." Su Yu angrily said, Search. If you can't find any evidence, I will immediately go to Housemaster Yi and ask for his judgment." The few people who followed him were terrified. They had come with 100% confidence in subduing Su Yu. In the end, they could not find Su Yu and were forced into a passive position. If Housemaster Yi was alerted and found out that they had purposely harmed a student, with Housemaster Ye's ruthlessness, no one could save them. Jiang Zhishu also felt that this was a tricky situation. This Xian Lifei was not reliable. She had forced him into a passive position. "Since it is a misunderstanding, we will take our leave." Jiang Zhishu coldly turned to leave. "Wait!" Su Yu coldly shouted, "You barged into my courtyard, coming and going as you please? I must report this matter to Housemaster Yi and ask him to uphold justice." Jiang Zhishu's eyes were cold. He turned and asked, "Then what do you want?" They were both smart people. How could Jiang Zhishu not sense Su Yu's intention to extort benefits from him? "It's not what I want, it's what you want." Su Yu angrily said, "You have ruined my honor. What should I do?" Jiang Zhishu was secretly hateful. Not only did he not get anything to use against Su Yu, he had also fallen into a passive position. Waving his hand to let them leave, Jiang Zhishu threw out a token, an exemption token, something that cannot be bought even with money. "Are you satisfied?" "An exemption token?" Su Yu raised his eyebrows. This was an item passed down from the depository of scriptures, and there were only 10 of it. According to the rules of the depository, one could only enter once every 6 months. However, with the restriction order, he could ignore this rule and enter again within half a year's time. Furthermore, it was not only the first level. Only gold students had the right to enter the second level, and only demon students had the right to enter the third level. This token was a reward for the higher-ups of the faction. Unless the students were directly related, they would not have the chance to touch it. Its value was unimaginable. Jiang Zhishu had no other choice. If Housemaster Yi found out that he had slandered Su Yu, he would not be able to bear the consequences. Therefore, he used an irresistible temptation to completely seal Su Yu's mouth. "Since it is a misunderstanding, I will not pursue it. I only hope that next time, Jiang Zhishu will think twice before acting." Su Yu said meaningfully, knowing when to stop. Jiang Zhishu's face was cold as he flicked his sleeves and left. After the crowd had completely left, Su Yu went to the window, pulled up the half-naked Xian Lifei, and threw her onto the bed. Chapter 20. "I'm sorry, I was forced." Xian Lifei blinked her misty eyes like an aggrieved lamb. How could Su Yu believe a one-sided story? After searching through her clothes for a while, a wooden box caught his attention. Top-grade spirit elixir. Su Yu was shocked after opening it, his eyes gradually turning cold. With Xian Lifei's background, how could she have obtained such a precious elixir? "Before I get completely angry, confess." Su Yu slowly walked towards Xian Lifei. Xian Lifei blinked in fear, her 2 perky breasts violently rising and falling in the white dew. It was Qin Feng who made me do it, I'm sorry." It really was him. Was he still in cahoots with Jiang Zhishu? Qin Feng, ranked second among the gold students, was a level 4 lower tier with frightening strength. It was him who had stolen Su Yu's childhood sweetheart. It was him who had viciously framed Su Yu again and again. Qin Feng, if I don't take revenge, Su Yu, am not human. Su Yu clenched his fists. Xian Lifei was like a little lamb, moving deeper into the bed, fearfully saying, "Can you let me go? I won't dare to do it again." Su Yu then looked at her. She wore a small white doo-doo and a pair of leopard skin shorts. Her slender and attractive body, smooth and delicate skin, two perfectly round and tight white thighs, as well as a proud, perky chest. Suyu, who had not touched a woman for a long time, could not help but be tempted. On Earth, as a manager, he often accompanied clients to places of pleasure, willing or unwilling, often tainted with women. After returning to the Shinue continent, he held his breath and trained hard, his days a little hard. With an evil smile, Suyu sat on the bed and pulled her from the depths of the bed onto his lap. "Ah, what are you doing?" Feeling the hot thighs under her buttocks, Xian Lifei trembled in fear. Her eyes filled with fear. How could she still be charming? Suyu was unmoved. His big hand reached under the doo-doo, climbing along the smooth, snowy peaks, and grasped her breasts. She was only 15 or 16 years old. What would happen when she grew up? Gently kneading a few times, he found that the elasticity was extraordinary, and the peak of the cherry was just right. It was scalding hot, soft, and smooth to the touch, making him feel indescribably comfortable. "Boo-hoo. I'm sorry. Please let me go. I'm still young. I can't lose my virginity." Xian Lifei was really frightened. She was ashamed and scared, crying on the spot. Suyu let out a mocking laugh. "Don't let there be a next time, or else." Suyu leisurely withdrew his hand without any reluctance. Although he was interested in women, he felt that it was beneath his dignity to rape someone who lacked skill. He was only interested in women who were willing. Of course, when he pulled his hand back, he played a prank and flicked the firm and tender cherry. Xian Lifei's nostrils flared, and her breathing quickened. Her sweet little face was so red that water was about to be squeezed out. Being released, Xian Lifei was relieved. She hurriedly put on her clothes and slipped out in fear. "By the way, is it true that the demonic beasts in the Twilight Mountains are guarding the treasure?" Suyu teased. Being stopped, Xian Lifei's body stiffened. She turned around with tears in her eyes and nodded her head like a chick pecking at grains. "Yes, it's true. This is the map." Quickly putting down a map, Xian Lifei ran away in a hurry. Only after walking far away did Xian Lifei wipe her teary eyes, feeling wronged and humiliated. "Boo-hoo. I don't want to live anymore. The spirit elixir has been taken away, and even my body has been touched." She had never been taken advantage of by any of the young masters. Only Suyu had been hugged and touched by him. Even now, her breasts were still swollen. The spirit elixir was also a pity. She had intended to consume it after completing her task. In case she failed, she would need to return the elixir to Qin Feng. But now, she had failed to complete her task and lost the elixir. She did not know how to explain this to Qin Feng. In the courtyard, Suyu sat cross-legged, smiling as he gazed at the top-grade spirit elixir. The powerful energy it contained was far beyond that of a middle-grade spirit elixir. Adjusting his body to its optimal state, Suyu immediately swallowed the elixir. The powerful energy traveled through his limbs and bones. Everywhere it passed, he felt as if his body was on fire. Soon, his whole body was drenched in sweat. Beads of sweat trickled down from his pores. He looked like he had just come out of a bath. 2 hours later, Suyu opened his eyes abruptly, and a beam of light shot out from them. Clenching his fists, a powerful force of blood flowed through his body, making him feel full of strength. He even felt like he could kill a cow with one punch. Is this the feeling of a level 3? It's extraordinarily powerful. Suyu exclaimed excitedly. He discovered that he could defeat Chen Tianan and other level 3 masters thanks to the power of the low-level Yellow Springs technique. The difference of one realm was more than double the difference in strength. But Suyu was not complacent. In the future, I will meet even more powerful masters. Relying on Yellow Springs alone is far from enough. Suyu flipped his palm and took out the restriction order, a smile appearing on his face. "Jiang Zhishir, you really gave me something good." Half a day later, after a month, Suyu once again arrived at the depository of scriptures. The old guard was still sitting at the top of the stairs, his expression cold. Seeing Suyu arrive, he calmly said, You can only enter once every 6 months. The old man was displeased and coldly said, I reminded you that cloud shadow is extremely difficult to cultivate, and that only 1 in 10,000 can succeed. You should not bite off more than you can chew. Now you regret it and want to exchange for a cultivation technique. Too late. Suyu was embarrassed and cupped his hands. I know. I have a restriction order. Handing over the token, the old man's wrinkled face slightly changed. He stared at Suyu for a moment. With his silver status, how could he receive a restriction order? But he did not pursue the matter further. Let me ask you, how is your cultivation of cloud shadow going? He had only asked Suyu a difficult question, hoping that Suyu would back off. In his heart, he had already labeled Suyu as biting off more than he can chew. Suyu's face was slightly red. Cloud shadow is difficult to comprehend. I've only cultivated it to stage 1 top class. Normally, with Suyu's talent, he would need half a year to cross the threshold. By manipulating time and cheating, he had only managed to cultivate it to stage 1 top class. It had to be said that his talent was average. The old man's indifferent expression suddenly changed. His pupils dilated. In just half a month, you've cultivated it to stage 1 top class? This news had truly shocked him. Someone with great talent would not be able to cross the threshold without at least a month of cultivation. But Suyu had cultivated it to such a level in half a month? How could he have known that Suyu had used time to double his comprehension time? The time he took to comprehend, it was 10 times that of others. Now that he could accelerate it to 20 times, his cultivation speed would increase again. As if realizing that he had lost his composure, the old man hid his shocked expression and moved to the side of the staircase. With his usual indifference, he said, You have the right to enter the 2nd and 3rd levels, but you can only take 1 cultivation technique. This rule will not change. Yes. So you flash forward. He had seen all the cultivation techniques on the 1st level of the depository of scriptures. There was nothing else that caught his eye. Only the 2nd and 3rd levels had the cultivation techniques he needed. Upon entering the 2nd level, there was a stone tablet introducing the technique. On the 2nd level, there are 49 offensive techniques and 490 auxiliary techniques. So you clicked his tongue. In the 1st level, there were 101 offensive cultivation techniques and 491 auxiliary cultivation techniques. The 2nd level had more than half. Of course, the 2nd level was filled with medium-level cultivation techniques. The 1st level could not compare to them. With fewer cultivation techniques, so he was much more serious about choosing. After a long time, medium-level cultivation technique, Tempest. Suyu's eyes lit up. After successfully cultivating this technique, one's leg technique will bring along a cold wind. When cultivated to the extreme, the cold wind will freeze water vapor and turn into icicles. With a kick, the cold wind will howl and snow will fall. This is a top medium-level cultivation technique. Its power is close to that of a top-level cultivation technique. The basic requirement for this technique is a strong leg technique foundation. The core requirement is a strong level of comprehension. Those who choose, please be absolutely cautious. If you do not have a level of comprehension that is 1 in a million, do not waste your time. So you flipped to the 1st page and was instantly dazzled. The words were not only choppy, but also difficult to pronounce. Cloud Shadow was already difficult to comprehend, but compared to this book, it was much easier. Suyu read for 10 minutes, but did not understand a single word. But Suyu was not discouraged. Instead, he was even more tempted. The more difficult a technique was to comprehend, the more powerful it was. The fewer people who cultivated it, the less likely it would be for others to decipher it. Activating time control would speed up the surrounding time by 20 times. In the eyes of an outsider, Suyu had only read for half an hour. In reality, he had spent 10 hours memorizing it. Then Suyu continued to choose. Ghost Shadow Technique, top medium-level cultivation technique. Suyu discovered the technique Chintian Nan was cultivating. He gave up on cultivating it after just one glance. Although this technique was powerful, it required the foundation of poison techniques. It was not suitable for him. Demonic eyes? What is this? When he browsed through the last offensive cultivation technique, a slightly sinister book with a black cover attracted his attention. Demonic Eyes, a medium-level cultivation technique. After cultivating, one can use soul attacks. At the lower tier, one can cause dizziness. At the upper tier, one can cause sudden death. Extremely dangerous. The only basic requirement is to be gifted with soul energy. This technique is extremely powerful, but because it involves the soul, it is extremely dangerous to cultivate. One can easily suffer from soul backlash. Those with innate soul energy must choose carefully. Without innate soul energy, cultivating this technique will only result in death. So you clicked his tongue. The requirements for Demonic Eyes were really special. Was my soul energy gifted? Flipping to the title page, there was a line of small words. To determine if one has innate soul energy, look at the cross at the beginning of the first page of this technique. The words contain a weak soul attack. If you can clearly read the first word, it means you have low soul energy. If you can clearly read the second word, your talent is passable. The third word, your talent is not bad. The fourth word, your talent is relatively strong. So you flip to the title page. Immediately, there were 10 strange words at the beginning of the technique. They were blurry, as if they were alive. It was difficult to see with the naked eye. But strangely, so you could clearly see the first 7 words. According to what was written, to be able to see the first 7 words clearly meant that one's soul energy was terrifying. Blinking, so you did not dare believe it. This body was mediocre in every aspect. His physique was mediocre, and his perception was mediocre. He had relied on the divine 9-dragon Cauldron to get to where he was today. So you could not get used to the sudden revelation that his soul energy was terrifying. After being stunned for a moment, Su understood. It should be the result of the fusion of 2 Su-Yu's souls. My soul is twice as strong as that of my peers. Delighted, Su immediately memorized Demonic Eyes. Then, Su looked through the 490 auxiliary cultivation techniques one by one, but none of them caught his eye. I wonder what the third level is like. Could there be superior cultivation techniques? Su was filled with anticipation as he leaped up to the 3rd floor. Chapter 21. The 3rd floor was not big, only 100 square feet. The cultivation techniques were pitifully few. This building has 7 offensive cultivation techniques and 49 auxiliary cultivation techniques. There were only a few dozen books, but they were all top-level cultivation techniques. Only the demon geniuses were qualified to cultivate them. The basic requirement to randomly open a book was extremely strong perception. One had to know that only a handful of medium-level cultivation techniques, such as Tempest, had extremely strong perception as their core requirement. But here, any top-level cultivation technique had extremely strong perception as its basic requirement. No wonder it was only open to the top 10 demon geniuses. Other than them, even if the other students came, they would not be able to comprehend it. So you could not help but be disappointed as he flipped through 6 books. A remnant of a cultivation technique, Purple Star Thunderbolt, classified as a fist technique. After cultivating, one's fists and palms would condense the power of thunder and lightning, its power ferocious and extremely destructive. This is a remnant of a book. The level of the cultivation technique is unknown. There is only one level. No one has successfully cultivated it. Basic requirement, extremely strong perception. Core requirement, unknown. Su silently cursed. Even the cultivation requirements were unknown. It was no wonder no one had successfully cultivated it. But among the 3 levels of cultivation techniques, the only one suitable for him was this one. After thinking for a moment, Su used the time control technique to memorize it in 20 hours. Su looked through the remaining 49 auxiliary cultivation techniques one by one. Unfortunately, like the 2nd level, there were no movement techniques. It seemed that Cloud Shadow was the strongest movement technique in the Training Institute. When can silver students enter the 3rd level? A surprised voice came from the staircase. Su, who was about to leave, turned his head to look. There were 2 people. One of them was a youth in a green robe. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, looking at Suyu in shock. Beside him was a young man enveloped in an icy aura. His hair was strangely silver, making him look rather peculiar. The silver-haired youth's eyes were cold, as if they contained the 9 frozen springs. He glanced at Suyu, then turned and walked down the stairs. "Shaoli, why are you leaving?" The youth with thick eyebrows and big eyes followed, puzzled. The silver-haired youth's voice was cold as ice. "Breathing the same air as silver students, dirty." Suyu laughed in anger. Did he think breathing the same air as him was dirty? Who forced you to breathe? You don't have to breathe." Suyu shrugged. The silver-haired youth didn't even turn around as he spat out indifferently, "Scram. You don't deserve to talk to me." Suyu laughed and shook his head. He was too lazy to deal with such a person. He pondered over the 3 cultivation techniques he had obtained in his mind, his heart burning with eagerness. Executing the cloud shadow duckweed track, Xiaochan was like the shadow of a white cloud descending from the sky, graceful and agile, free and at ease. At the same time, he was like duckweed drifting gracefully across the waves of the river. In the blink of an eye, he passed 2 students and rushed into the first floor. He was waiting for the old man to give him some instructions on how to select the technique. Hail, Tempest? It was another cultivation technique that was so difficult to cultivate. The old man was shocked, but this time he didn't say anything. The fact that the other party was able to comprehend Cloud Shadow showed that his comprehension ability was extraordinary. The young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes stared at Suyu's back, slightly surprised. "It's actually Cloud Shadow. Shaoli, it seems that you haven't succeeded in cultivating it either, right?" The silver-haired youth's cold face sank slightly. "Oomph. It's just that I have no time to cultivate. He's just a silver rank. He's able to cultivate successfully, but he's just wasting a lot of time." "Is that so?" From a student number on his chest, it seems that he's about to be promoted to a gold student. The young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes thought for a moment. Suyu returned to the courtyard, packed up his fiery red bow and dry rations, and hurried into the forest. The curriculum of the training institute was relatively loose, and there were no mandatory rules. The students were very flexible and did not need to apply for leave. Half a day later, Suyu once again entered the Twilight Mountains. Passing by the place where he fought the fire dragon, Suyu couldn't help but chuckle. He wondered how the young princess, whom he had drugged, was doing, and if the duke still wanted him. Without stopping, Suyu hurried through the forest during the day, fully utilizing Cloud Shadow, leaping through the forest. At night, he meditated and cultivated in the cave, comprehending and cultivating Hail, Storm, Demonic Eyes, and Purple Star Thunderbolt. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Suyu followed the address provided by Xianli Fei and headed towards the cave guarded by 2 level 1 demonic beasts. During the half a month, Suyu encountered all kinds of wild beasts along the way. Occasionally, Suyu would fight with them to hone his techniques. Long periods of actual combat and long periods of cultivation had greatly benefited him. Universal Stroke had been cultivated to top class, and his fists and legs had achieved upper class. On the other hand, Cloud Shadow had been cultivated to the 2nd level of perfection. Now, his speed was comparable to that of a level 3 peak expert. His latest medium-level cultivation technique, Hailstorm, had a total of 3 stages, and he had cultivated it to stage 1 top class. Although it was extremely difficult to comprehend, under the control of time, he had spent a full 5 nights cultivating. Calculating by 20 times, that was 100 nights. Although his level of comprehension was low, it could not withstand such a terrifying long period of comprehension. Thus, in just a few days, he had made some progress. Now, he could casually kick up a gust of cold wind. If he could cultivate it to stage 2 top class, he could create a cold fog and freeze the object he struck. If he could cultivate it to stage 3 top class, ice and snow would form between his legs, and the momentum would be astonishing. But the one with the fastest progress was Demonic Eyes. This was beyond Suyu's expectations. Suyu's pitch-black eyes blinked. Occasionally, a strange black light passed through them. The only requirement for demonic eyes was that one had to be gifted with soul energy, and his talent seemed to be frighteningly good. According to the cultivation technique, it was easy to suffer a backlash when cultivating it. But up until now, there had been no danger at all. He had triumphantly cultivated it to stage 2 top class. Demonic eyes was divided into 3 stages. At stage 1 top class, one could release the soul petrifying thorn, and those struck by it would faint. At stage 2 top class, one could release the soul petrifying light, and those struck by it would suffer soul damage. Chen Tianan had cultivated it to stage 2 top class. That day, he had almost turned Su Yu into an idiot. At stage 3 top class, it was said that one could release the soul petrifying sword. Those struck by it would have their souls shattered, and they would die without a trace. It was mysterious and unpredictable. Now, Su Yu had only cultivated it to stage 2 top class, but the effects were shocking. Just yesterday, he had encountered a mountain tiger and used the soul petrifying light, causing the mountain tiger to lose its consciousness and become a fool, motionless. The only thing that Su Yu regretted was the cultivation technique of unknown grade, Purple Star Thunderbolt, had not made any progress at all. No matter how much time Su Yu controlled, he could not comprehend even a tiny bit of it, which made him feel frustrated. It really is a cultivation technique that no one can successfully cultivate. Could it be that it lacks the core cultivation requirements? Su Yu was still puzzled. What were the core cultivation requirements of Purple Star Thunderbolt? With this thought in mind, Su Yu continued on his way. Based on the distance, he should be arriving soon. Roar. At this moment, a roar that shook the forest suddenly attacked. The forest swayed, hundreds of birds flew away in fright, and wild beasts fled in all directions. Level 1 demonic beast. No, it's stronger than a normal level 1 demonic beast. Su Yu's expression was grave. A mature level 1 demonic beast was equivalent to a level 3 upper tier human, such as the fire dragon snake. But there were also a few level 1 demonic beasts that were born with abilities comparable to a level 3 peak human. Clang. The sound of fighting and the low roars of humans could be heard. Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. With a tap of his toes, his figure swept forward. Hidden behind a giant rock, Su Yu stood a mile away, peeping. With his eyesight, he could clearly discern the situation a mile away. He saw a giant tiger with sharp spikes on its back fighting 3 humans. The 3 humans were all teenagers, but their strength was frighteningly strong. The weakest was a level 3 lower tier, and the strongest was a level 3 peak. Li Mingho. Su Yu's eyes shrank. He immediately discovered that the level 3 lower tier was the gold student, Li Mingho. His strength was still fresh in Su Yu's memory. He had been challenged by Su-san because he had taken away Su-sen's girlfriend and played her under his crotch. As strong as Su-san was, the 3rd silver student and also a level 3 lower tier, he could not withstand one move from Li Mingho. Although the remaining 2 were unfamiliar, there was no doubt that they were also gold students. The 3 of them were working together to besiege the giant barbed tiger. The level 3 peak gold student was the main force, and the other 2 assisted. Flowing wave sword. The level 3 peak student's eyes flashed. He saw the opportunity and held a long green bamboo sword in his hand. The long sword drew a beautiful arc in the air, cold and beautiful, like a gorgeous sword of death. Poof! Roar! The giant barbed tiger was carelessly stabbed in the neck, and the long green bamboo sword pierced its heart. However, the demonic beast's vitality was tenacious, and it fought back at death's door. The giant tiger claw slapped horizontally, and the long green bamboo sword in its neck flew away. The level 3 peak student's face was slightly cold, and he scolded, "Retreat immediately. Find a high place to hide. It has been fatally wounded, and its death is only a matter of time. We just need to wait patiently, and there is no need to take the risk of attacking it." As he spoke, he took the lead to climb an old tree. Li Mingho and the other student also hurriedly looked for a big tree. The demonic beast's dying counterattack was very terrifying. However, there was only one big tree that could withstand the giant barbed tiger's attack. The three climbed a big tree at the same time. When the giant barb tiger caught up, the three climbed up. However, before they could breathe a sigh of relief, something happened that made their faces change dramatically. The giant barb tiger went crazy and hit the old tree with the barbs on its back. Crack! The sharp barbs pierced the old tree, and the big tree was shaky. Not good. Retreat. The old tree is going to fall. The level 3 peak student's face changed dramatically. The giant barb tiger was determined to kill them. Unfortunately, it was too late. Walala! The big tree suddenly broke with a rustling sound. The three people were all pressed in the branches, and they hurriedly drilled out, trying to escape in all directions. However, the giant barb tiger had already rushed up, and its blood-red eyes stared at the surroundings. At this time, if anyone popped out, it could bite off their head with its tiger mouth. Suddenly, the giant barb tiger sensed someone's breath under its feet. It suddenly used its tiger claws to throw away the dense leaves, and found a gold student whose feet were pressed down by branches. It was a person at the level 3 peak of the martial path. At this moment, he was scared out of his wits. He looked at the tiger head close at hand, and it opened its bloody mouth to pounce on him, and let out a scream of horror at the moment of death. Whoosh! Chapter 22. The angle of the arrow was precise and tricky, entering the eye of the giant barb tiger. The eye was one of its few weaknesses. Roar! The giant barb tiger was in pain. With one eye blinded, it searched for the enemy with its remaining eye. Soon, a young man in white stood on a big tree in the distance, holding a big red bough in his hand. At the same time, a second arrow was shot. The giant barb tiger roared, gave up on the person under its feet, and quickly dodged. It wanted to chase Suyu, but the arrows in Suyu's hands were tightly packed. With a roar, it reluctantly fled far away, dragging its seriously injured body away. Suyu put away the big red bough, leaped through the forest, and quickly chased after it. The three gold students, having survived a disaster, broke out in a cold sweat. Quickly chase. The three immediately gave chase. The giant tiger's vitality was tenacious. It ran for half a day before it died of exhaustion. Suyu moved extremely quickly, cutting off the most valuable tiger skin. Hey, what is this? Suyu suddenly found a black fruit in the mouth of the giant barb tiger. It was very hard, stuck in the gap between its teeth, so it could not swallow it or crush it. Pulling it out with difficulty, Suyu had no choice but to ask for help. Stop! A shout came from behind him. The three gold students rushed over, looking at the skinned tiger meat, and then at the black fruit in Suyu's hand. Their expressions changed at the same time. It's you, the Silver King, Suyu. Li Mingho had always felt familiar. Thinking carefully, wasn't this the new generation of Silver King Suyu? The other two gold students looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. It would be fine if they were in the same school, but if they were strangers, they would be wary of each other. Suyu glanced at him, then looked at the other two. It turns out to be the Silver King Suyu. I am Lu Xian, and this is my brother, Lu Xing. Lu Xian was a gold student at level 3 peak. Suyu raised his eyebrows. He had heard of Lu Xian's name. He was a gold student, ranked 3rd. How could he meet him here? As for Lu Xing, although not as famous as his brother, he was also ranked 10th among the gold students. His strength was not to be underestimated. What advice do you have? Suyu slowly put the hard black fruit into his arms. This action made Lu Xian raise his eyebrows, but he looked at Lu Xing, who was safe and sound, and did not say anything in the end. If Suyu had not intervened in time, his brother would have lost his life. Lu Xing's lips squirmed a few times, feeling rather unwilling. However, the other party had saved his life. It was difficult for him to ask for the black nut in front of everyone, lest he bear the name of being ungrateful. Li Mingho did not have so many scruples and coldly smiled. We worked together to kill the demon beast, and you came out halfway to take advantage of it, and even took it for yourself. Are you not afraid of bursting your stomach? Then what do you want? Suyu was calm and composed. In the past, he could only look up to Li Mingho, but now, things were different. Li Mingho said with a faint smile, What do you think? Put down the tiger pelt, put down the nut. Since you helped, you can take the tiger meat away. And if I say no, so you loathe people like Li Mingho. Just because they were strong, they could do whatever they wanted. They took the wives and daughters of others and humiliated their husbands. They were the same kind of people as Qin Feng. Li Mingho was so angry that he laughed. Becoming the Silver King has made you overconfident, right? How dare you be so insolent in front of a gold student? I will only count to 3. Otherwise, don't blame me, a gold student, for bullying a silver student like you. Li Mingho held out 3 fingers. 1. Sneering, Li Mingho put down 1 finger. Swish, but at that moment, Su Yu moved. His speed was extremely fast, leaping 5 meters away with 1 step. In 2 steps, he was close to Li Mingho. Li Mingho's smile froze, his expression changed, and he hurriedly blocked. Universal Underworld. His punches and kicks were endless, airtight. The attack time seemed long, but the speed of his punches and kicks was extremely fast. In just 2 breaths, he had hit 64 consecutive blows. Wow! Li Mingho could no longer resist, and a kick landed on his chest. His internal organs were shaken, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood and fly backward. Su Yu's figure floated down, looking indifferently at the horrified Li Mingho. I didn't want to bully you, but you think too highly of yourself. As he spoke, Su Yu put down the last finger and finished the 3rd count for him. 3. You lost. In 3 breaths, Su Yu had instantly defeated a gold-ranked 30th. The Lucian brothers were secretly surprised. The new generation of Silver King was much stronger than Chen Tiannan's generation. Chen Tiannan had defeated Li Mingho with 1 move. Su Yu had won with 1 move. Lu Xing's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. Su Yu, even if you saved me, you shouldn't be so arrogant, right? Not only did you steal our spoils of war, but you also injured our people. Since you were so confident, why don't I fight with you? Lu Xing stepped forward and said coldly. His powerful energy suppressed Su Yu with an absolute advantage. Su Yu dusted off his robe and smiled lightly. If I had known this would happen, I would have waited until you were eaten before making a move. In this world, one cannot be a good person. Bastard, come back here. Lu Xian was furious. With a cold shout, he dragged Lu Xing back. Lu Xing struggled and said indignantly, He's going too far. Shut up. Lu Xian angrily rebuked. Only then did Lu Xing shut up, but his occasional glances at Su Yu were not friendly. Lu Xian cupped his fists and apologized. My brother is not sensible. I hope Brother Su can forgive him. He had changed the way he addressed Su Yu. Su Yu's powerful strength had won his respect. Su Yu nodded. Well, since there's nothing else, I will leave. Wait, Brother Su, did you come for the place guarded by the demonic beasts? Lu Xian's eyes flashed. It was too much of a coincidence to meet here. Su Yu had actually guessed that the destination of the 3 of them was most likely the spirit treasure in the cave that Xian Lifei had mentioned. After a moment's thought, Su Yu did not hide it. Yes. Lu Xian smiled. Why don't Brother Su travel with us? We can take care of each other. The guarded place is most likely dangerous. Secretly glancing at Li Mingho, Su Yu shook his head and refused. He did not want to travel with people like Li Mingho. Since there had been enmity, who knew if he would attack secretly? Li Mingho gritted his teeth, feeling humiliated. He angrily turned and left. Sorry, Brother Lu, I will leave now. It was obvious that Lu Xian wanted Su Yu to stay, but it was inconvenient for him to drive Li Mingho away because of his pride. Li Mingho disdained to accept such charity. Lu Xian pretended to urge him to stay, but finally sighed helplessly. Only then did Su Yu join the team. The 3 divided the last of the tiger's valuables and rested by the lake. From their mouths, Su Yu learned that the hard black fruit was the key to their encirclement and killing of the tiger. This was the black soul fruit, which grew in harsh environments and contained extremely strong energy. It was infinitely beneficial to enhancing the strength of one's blood. That night, Su Yu pried open the black soul fruit and found a mass of white, sparkling flesh inside. Its fragrance filled the air. Just one whiff was enough to make one feel relaxed and happy, and the blood in one's body stirred. As he swallowed it, a cool feeling slowly spread. The comfortable energy seeped into his limbs and bones, transforming his body. His cultivation had reached a bottleneck during the half a month of training. After the impact of the powerful energy, he naturally broke through to level 3 upper tier. Lucian secretly nodded as he watched. I heard that this Silver King was just a mediocre person at the first heaven a month ago, but now he is a master at the third heaven. His cultivation level alone is comparable to the top 20 gold rank. Lu Xing's eyes were red, and he disdainfully said, "So what if he doesn't have a suitable cultivation technique? I can beat him with one move. Don't even think about it. You're no match for him." Lu Xing gently shook his head, his eyes flashing. "Puffed. How is that possible? Although his universal stroke has been cultivated to the top class, my medium-level cultivation technique has also been cultivated to stage 3 upper tier. He wouldn't even be able to withstand a blow from me." Lu Xing sneered, secretly disdainful. Lu Xing thought for a moment, then said, "I don't know either. It's just intuition that he's hiding a stronger strength." After dawn, Suyu opened his eyes. His eyes flashed, and a powerful force of blood surrounded his body. Suyu was very satisfied with the strength of his breakthrough, but he knew it was far from enough. Qin Feng was the second strongest gold rank, and his cultivation level had reached level 4 lower tier. Suyu was far inferior. After a short rest, the group continued on their journey. One day, in front of the valley. It's in a valley. It's said that there are 2 flaming lions guarding the cave entrance. Lu Xing lowered his voice, vigilant and cautious. The flaming lions were level 1 demonic beasts. Their bodies emitted intense flames, and the temperature was extremely high, making them very difficult to deal with. According to the original plan, we were going to join forces to strangle the demonic beasts. Since Brother Su is joining us, it will be much easier. Lu Xing looked at the dark depths of the valley, his eyes unblinking. Suyu's crystalline eyes flashed, and his expression changed slightly. "Let's go." After saying this, he retreated first. Lu Xing's eyes showed hesitation, and he immediately got up and left. Lu Xing stared at the dark valley, unable to see anything. He hesitated for a moment before reluctantly following. "Why are you so suspicious? If you have something to say it quickly." Lu Xing could barely keep up with the two. Suyu did not say a word, but his heart was beating wildly. His crystalline eyes, which could see nothing in the darkness, saw a terrifying scene. In the depths of the dark valley, half a kilometer away, a youth in blue clothes killed a person with a flick of his finger. The person who was killed had strength comparable to the peak of the third heaven, which was on par with Lu Xing. However, he was killed with a flick of the finger. After the green-clothed youth easily killed the people, he seemed to have sensed something. He stood upright in the pool of blood and slowly turned his head. His sharp gaze shot towards Suyu and the rest of the people. The corners of his mouth curled into a hideous smile. He had been discovered. This person's strength was unimaginably terrifying. He had only felt this kind of soul-trembling terror from Lord Yi, who was at the 6th level of the martial path. Lu Xing was furious at being ignored. With a whoosh, he flashed forward to block Suyu's path. "Su, I've tolerated you for a long time. After becoming the Silver King, you have no respect for others." Lu Xing rebuked angrily. Suyu was secretly anxious. The green-robed youth had already discovered it, but Lu Xing was still pestering him. "If you want to die, I won't accompany you. Get out of the way." Suyu berated. He had no time to explain. Lu Xing laughed angrily. "You can't even withstand a single blow, and you're still pretending to be mysterious? Let me use my fist to pry open your mouth." "No." Lu Xing let out a low grunt, but it was too late to stop him. Ask the Stars First style. Lu Xing's 2 fingers were like swords stabbing forward. It was like a star descending from the heavens, as fast as an arc of light. Whoosh! The air exploded. The extremely powerful finger pressed down on the surrounding air. "Get lost." Suyu was secretly furious. He had no time to deal with him and quickly counterattacked. Tempest. Suyu's right foot was like a green leaf in the sky, swaying in the wind and rain. One kick after another, rising and falling like a vast expanse of blue waves. Gusts of cold wind surrounded his legs and feet, whistling as if it was winter in the north of the Great Wall. Crack! Whoa! Lu Xing's fingers cracked and his bones shattered. His body flew backward 5 meters, crashing into a large tree. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Xing's expression changed, and he stared at Su Yu in disbelief. He had been seriously injured in one move. In his imagination, Su Yu, a silver who could not be shown in public, could not withstand a single blow. But the reality was that he could not withstand a single move from Su Yu. Lu Xian's pupil shrank. He flew over to examine Lu Xing's injuries. His eyes flickered for a long time before he took a light breath and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Brother Su, for showing mercy." "What?" Lu Xing gasped. "So you had shown mercy just now?" Chapter 23. Su Yu coldly glanced at Lu Xing, then looked at the pitch-black entrance of the valley with a grave expression. What caused his pupils to shrink was that a faintly discernible green figure walked out from the darkness. "Run! He's coming out!" Su Yu's expression changed. He pushed Cloud Shadow to the extreme, disappearing into the forest like the shadow of a cloud or duckweed in a river. Level 6 of the martial path. He might not even have a chance to escape. Lu Xian looked back, and his pupils shrank. The youth in green exuded a bloody smell that could be smelled from a mile away. Lu Xian could not see through his cultivation, but a sense of fear welled up within him. "Run!" Lu Xian was scared out of his wits. The threat of death was palpitating in his heart. Carrying Lu Xing, Lu Xian fled. However, he was wise and did not stay with Su Yu. Instead, he split up and fled. The youth in green had a cruel, evil smile on his face, his hands stained with sticky blood. His gloomy eyes wandered back and forth between Su Yu and Lu Xian. What a vigilant junior to be able to detect me hiding in the darkness. The youth in green stood where he was and did not pursue. Instead, his figure flashed and he left the valley. My goal has been achieved. Those 3 brats are lucky. I cannot stay here for long. I must retreat as soon as possible and report back to the first prince. Su Yu ran for a long time and was slightly relieved to see that the youth had not caught up. He hid in the dense forest. Once he was safe, Su Yu fell into deep thought. In fact, before entering the Twilight Mountains, he had some doubts. If someone had really found a cave guarded by a demonic beast, why not quietly search for the treasure instead of spreading the news to the whole world? Even a student like Xian Lifei, who was not very strong, could get a treasure map. Now it seemed that the news was deliberately spread to lure them into the valley and be killed by the youth in green. But what was that person's purpose? After waiting quietly for a long time, the youth in green did not chase after them. Su Yu muttered, "Since that person did not chase after us, it means that he has most likely left the valley." The existence of the youth in green had been exposed. If he wanted to continue hiding in the valley and kill those who were lured, he should have chased after Su Yu and the others to silence them. Since they weren't chasing after him, it meant that the other party had given up on hiding in the valley. Su Yu's eyes flickered with a shrewd light. After thinking for a moment, he turned around and flew back. Half a day later, outside the valley, the smell of blood lingered in the wind. Activating his crystalline pupils, the green-robed youth was indeed long gone, leaving behind only a cold corpse. Tiptoeing lightly, Su Yu cautiously walked over to the side of the corpse. The 4th-ranked gold student, Xing Beer. Su Yu's pupils shrank, and he gasped. Sung by, or had a good relationship with Qin Feng. It was said that she was Qin Feng's ex-girlfriend. She had been a great help to Qin Feng in being able to pursue Jiang Xueqing. As a female student, Sung Beer could freely enter and exit the female dormitory. Her powerful cultivation made it easy for others to admire her. It was said that she had a good relationship with the female students and knew a lot of inside information about them. In Su Yu's eyes, she, who was at level 3 peak, was a powerful existence that he could only look up to. However, at this moment, he had died a horrible death. His forehead had been pierced by a powerful force, and his face was filled with the fear of death. Squatting down to check, Suyu realized that the green-clothed youth did not look like he was looking for money. This was because he did not take away the valuables on Sangbir. Suyu did not stand on ceremony and took out many things from his robes. Top-grade spirit elixir. Suyu was slightly surprised. This kind of thing, even the green-clothed youth did not take a liking to it. Thinking of the effects of the top-grade spirit elixir, Suyu's heart warmed, and he put it into his robes. Then, there were 3,000 taels of silver notes, enough to buy another top-grade spirit elixir. After doing this, Suyu prepared to leave. Suddenly, a faintly discernible putrid smell assailed his nostrils. Suyu activated his crystalline pupils and looked deeper into the valley. His pupils shrank as he discovered two huge lions, their bodies emitting a putrid stench, collapsed in front of a cave abode. Could it be that the treasure map was real? It was not fake. In order to ensure that no one would be lured, the youth really chose a place guarded by demonic beasts. With a thought, Suyu flew over. Although the flaming lion was rotten, its teeth were worth a lot of money, so Suyu kept them. There were a total of 4, each the fangs of the flaming lion. The fangs contained fierce flame energy. Once thrown and hit a target, it would cause a strong explosion. The flames could instantly cause harm to a person. Its power was similar to the silver ball of the young princess of Xinyu. It could be kept for his own use or taken back to sell. Just these 4 fangs were worth at least 2,000 taels of silver. After putting them away, Suyu used his pupils to investigate the cave. It was dead silent, with no signs of life. The cave was not deep, only 100 meters deep. The stone walls had been baked by the flames of the flaming lion for a long time, emitting a faint warmth. With the mentality of giving it a try, Suyu walked to the end of the 100 meters, but there was nothing. Suyu could not help but be disappointed. It seemed that the cave abode was only a resting place for the flaming lion and did not guard anything. Come to think of it, if there really were treasures, they would have long been taken away by the terrifying green-clothed youth. Thump, thump. Suddenly, Suyu felt the ground beneath his feet, gently shaking as if it was pulsing. Looking at the ground beneath his feet, there was a hair-thin dark red crack. If not for Suyu's excellent eyesight, which allowed him to see darkness as if it were day, it would have been extremely difficult to discover its existence. Carefully digging up the ground, a wisp of dark red liquid emitting hot energy gushed out like spring water. In the blink of an eye, it filled the small pit. Jade fire marrow? Suyu was shocked. He had heard of the name of this item more than once or twice. It was rumored that the jade fire marrow came from the depths of the earth and had an extremely strong effect on the transformation of the human body, far better than spirit elixirs. Moreover, the jade fire marrow had an additional effect, and that was to temper the body. There were strong and weak physiques. At the same cultivation level, those with stronger physiques could last longer in battle, and the power of their moves would be stronger and more ferocious. Those with stronger physiques had the ability to crush those of the same cultivation level. On the market, a drop of jade fire marrow was worth at least 100 taels of silver. Moreover, it was priceless. It had not appeared in the world for hundreds of years, and the royal family did not have any collection. The jade fire marrow in front of him was more than a drop. There was a small pit. Suyu was indescribably excited. This item was precious, and it also had the effect of enhancing the strength of blood for a strong level 6 of the martial path. If the youth in green knew that he had missed out on a great treasure, what would he think? What made Suyu slightly speechless was that he did not have many jade bottles or pouches to store this spiritual liquid. Cultivate on the spot. I'll bring back the excess. Suyu made up his mind and dug the pit a little deeper, just enough for him to soak in. Hiss! As soon as his body entered the jade fire marrow, Suyu suddenly felt as if he had been thrown into a pot of oil. The burning pain stimulated his nerves, making him instinctively want to jump out. But his will forced him to do so. Clenching his teeth, beads of sweat rolled down his forehead, and his body was red from the heat. Bear with it. The reason why my body is in so much pain is because this body is relatively weak without the foundation of body tempering. As long as I clench my teeth and endure, my body will undergo earth-shaking changes. 1 minute passed. 10 minutes passed. Half an hour passed. An hour passed. Su Yu, with his own will, stubbornly persisted. Finally, 3 hours later, his body was transformed, gradually adapting, and the pain was no longer so severe. 10 hours later, he had been soaking for half a day, and there was no longer the slightest discomfort. The jade fire marrow in the pit was only left with a fist-sized lump of jade fire marrow. Su Yu's eyes slowly opened, and a powerful force of blood surged through his body. Phew, what a powerful jade fire marrow. Su Yu was pleasantly surprised to find that his cultivation base had reached level 3 peak, only one step away from breaking through to level 4. The jade fire marrow could only be consumed internally to improve one's cultivation base. Now, just by soaking in it, his cultivation base had been forcibly raised to level 3 peak. The effect was not just an ordinary kind of powerful. The remaining small lump of jade fire marrow could be taken back and swallowed. With its powerful energy, Su Yu's cultivation base would definitely soar. At this moment, Su Yu's body still looked thin, but with a casual clench of his fist, there was a crisp crackling sound coming from his bones, like frying beans. It was the same universal stroke. Now that he was using it, the power of his punches and kicks was far more than twice what it used to be. It was very terrifying, so you could not estimate his own specific strength. Before, he could easily defeat Lu Xing, who was at level 3 upper tier. Now, defeating his brother Lu Xian should not be a problem. Qin Feng, the gap between us has shrunk by 1 step. I hope you will not be too surprised when the time comes. Su Yu clenched his fists, his eyes full of confidence. Staring at the last remaining precious lump of jade fire marrow, Su Yu hurriedly went out and caught a python. He peeled off the skin of the python, cleaned it, and used it as a container to store the last lump of jade fire marrow. Putting away the last drop of jade fire marrow, Su Yu calculated the time and said to himself, "I've been out for half a month. It will take at least 10 days to travel back. It's time to return to the Institute. The gold assessment is about to begin." Just as Qin Feng put away the last drop of jade fire marrow, he suddenly found that in the crack in the ground where the jade fire marrow gushed out, a colorful brilliance flashed. So you continued to dig along the crack. After digging for half a meter, clang, a natural underground passage suddenly appeared as the ground collapsed. In the passage, the breath of the jade fire marrow lingered, extending deep into the ground. So you stepped into it with a strange feeling. Suddenly, a slight pain struck him. It turned out to be the water vapor of the jade fire marrow in the tunnel, emitting scorching heat. Fortunately, Su Yu's body had been baptized and was no longer afraid of the burning of the jade fire marrow. Otherwise, he might not have had the opportunity to go down this tunnel. After walking for a full hour, Su Yu only felt that breathing was becoming more and more difficult, as if he had already entered the depths of thousands of meters underground. Buzz! The colorful brilliance once again appeared at the end of the passage. Su Yu's heart moved, and he immediately rushed over. The end was sealed by mud, and only a crack could be seen outside. The colorful brilliance came from outside. Chapter 24. Senior sister, let's take a break. A man's voice suddenly rang out. Su Yu looked over, and his expression changed slightly. A man with handsome facial features that could make women jealous was attentively handing over a bag of water with both hands. Before him was a woman that was as beautiful as a celestial being from a painting. Her snow-white eyes were like a lake in autumn, clear and tranquil, as she possessed a tranquil bearing. She seemed like an otherworldly, celestial being. This person was the celestial being who had gifted Su Yu the fiery red bow. At this moment, the celestial being was facing a colorful wall. Her eyes were completely focused on the wall, as if she wanted to see something from it. After staring for a long time, the celestial being tiredly withdrew her gaze. "Thank you." She accepted the water bag with an indifferent expression. Her red lips parted slightly as she took a sip. The devilishly handsome young man was the Golden King, Feng Qinzhou. He made an appointment with the painting-like celestial being and once again came to the ruins to comprehend the remaining murals in the ruins. Senior sister, did you find anything? Fang Qingzhou asked. The celestial beauty put down the water bag and rubbed the space between her brows tiredly. She shook her head slightly. No, as expected of a relic from 1,000 years ago. Even a remnant painting is difficult to comprehend. Fang Qingzhou said regretfully, the murals are flashing too fast. It's hard for us to capture the specific content of the painting. Therefore, it's very difficult to comprehend. The night of the full moon is about to pass, and the murals will fall silent once more. We still haven't gained anything this time. Perhaps this is fate. This place doesn't belong to us. Fang Qingzhou hid a strange look in his eyes and said softly, yes, senior sister, rest for a while. We will leave later. The celestial being in the painting nodded and closed her eyes to meditate. Staring at the mural for a long time was extremely taxing on her mind. Suyu, who was observing this scene in secret, felt a little depressed for some unknown reason. In his heart, the celestial being was an otherworldly fairy. Looking at it now, she seemed to have a very close relationship with this young man, so much so that the two shared the same secret. Letting out a light breath, the heaviness in his heart dissipated. His determination towards martial arts was unshakable. Women were just decorations in his life. His heart was in martial arts. From the conversation between the two of them, it seemed that this five-colored mural contained something very mysterious. When Suyu tried to look at it, a rumbling sound rang out his head, and he felt a faint piercing pain. Phew! Suyu rubbed his temples and took a few deep breaths. The scenes are jumping around too fast, and my head feels uncomfortable. However, Suyu did not give up. An ordinary person might be helpless, but Suyu could control time and space. The crystalline eye spun, and the surrounding time and space slowed down by 10 times. The colorful image suddenly slowed down a lot. When Suyu fixed his eyes on it, he realized that it was actually two different scenes, which were constantly alternating and confusing. He could roughly see the image, but it was still very fast and not clear enough. When he activated his eye again, time and space around him slowed down by 20 times. All of a sudden, the two images slowed down to a snail's pace, allowing Suyu to see them clearly. In the first scene, an old man in green robes stood at the top of a cliff. He had the demeanor of an immortal, as if he was a deity. From his body, Suyu felt a strange aura that he had never felt before. Although the old man was in the painting, he seemed to be one with the scenery in the painting, becoming a part of nature and harmonizing with nature. Then, the old man raised his head with a look of grief and indignation. His finger drew an arc in the air. That arc was simple and smooth. Although it was a simple finger, it seemed to contain an infinite rhythm, as if it had become one with nature. Suyu's mind roared. That finger was infinitely mysterious, but it was so simple and natural. At that moment, Suyu felt that he had grasped something. He subconsciously extended his finger, gesturing at the old man, and drew it gracefully in the air. Creak! The air issued a slight tremor. It was as if Suyu's simple finger had an indescribable mystery, causing the surrounding air to tremble. Although it was only a 10,000th of the finger of the old man in the painting, it was more rhythmic than the finger of an ordinary person. Suyu's eyes gradually regained clarity, his mind settling on that mysterious finger for a long time. He felt as if he had touched a mysterious door. Whoosh! The scene changed, and the second scene appeared. In the sky above the old man's head, dark clouds rolled, forming a giant vortex. A horrifying giant palm suddenly slammed down from the dark clouds. This slap caused the mountains to collapse, the earth to crack, the tsunami to roar, and the whole world to shake. When the giant palm dissipated, the towering cliff no longer existed, and the sage-like old man's corpse was also gone. Only a palm print 1,000 feet wide was left on the ground. Puff! Suyu's face was flushed, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes flickered with astonishment. That palm was too horrifying. It was unimaginably horrifying. Su could not suppress the boiling blood in his body just by looking at it. If he had not been tempered by the jade fire marrow, his body would have exploded from the boiling blood. He could not look anymore. Suyu immediately withdrew his crystalline pupils, the shock in his eyes difficult to dissipate. "Senior sister, what's wrong with you?" Fong Qingzhou suddenly spoke, but his voice was a bit strange. The celestial beauty slightly frowned and subconsciously lifted her collar. She did not know why, but she suddenly felt her body begin to heat up. "Senior sister, are you feeling hot? How about letting me help you undress?" Fong Qingzhou let out an evil laugh as he slowly walked forward, the lust in his eyes no longer hidden. The celestial beauty's mind buzzed, and she suddenly looked at her water bag, her pretty face cold. You drug my water?" Fong Qingzhou slowly nodded, laughing lewdly. Not bad, and it's the capital's most famous Thousand Lives love powder. Whether it's a chaste woman or a virtuous woman, after taking it, they will all become a ****. A trace of panic flashed in the celestial beauty's eyes, and she coldly scolded, "Fong Qingzhou, how dare you do such a despicable thing? If you dare to cross the line, my father will certainly not let you off." Fong Qingzhou looked at the celestial beauty's snow-white skin, which gradually turned red, her snow-like eyes burning with lust. She was excited beyond words. "Your father? Who does he think he is? I'm not afraid to tell you that my father has returned from the sanctuary, and he has already arrived at the Martial Arts Training Institute. Even if I did, what would your father dare to do to me? Would he dare to touch a single hair of mine?" Fong Qingzhou laughed wildly. The celestial beauty's heart thumped, her face filled with horror. The sanctuary. These two words were enough to make the heroes of the world submit, enough to make anyone look up to them. The master of the sanctuary was the rumored Holy King. The people of the sanctuary were all related to the Holy King. To put it bluntly, not to mention people who came from the sanctuary, even a dog raised by the sanctuary had to be treated politely by the empire. Furthermore, Fong Qingzhou's father had an extraordinary status in the sanctuary. One word, one attitude, one order from him was enough to change the fate of the Martial Arts Training Institute in the Xinyu Prefecture. Her father was not even worth mentioning in front of his father. Feeling her lower body gradually swelling, her mind gradually losing control, the celestial beauty's eyes were filled with grief and indignation. Was she going to be tainted by someone else for her entire life? A trace of killing intent appeared in her eyes. Killing him would solve the crisis. Fong Qingzhou stood with his hands behind his back, grinning coldly. "With your level 5 of the martial path, it is easy to kill me, but do you dare? My father already knew that I entered the forest with you. When I die, you return alive. Believe it or not, my father will kill your entire family in a fit of anger, leaving no one alive." The celestial beauty's delicate body trembled. With her father's terrifying status, it was indeed possible. The celestial beauty was filled with grief and indignation. She could not kill him, and she was poisoned. Was she really going to be tainted by this beast? Fong Qingzhou, seeing that the celestial beauty was gradually losing her strength, walked over with a lecherous smile. Xia Jingyu, as long as you are willing to cooperate with me and serve me well, there will be benefits for you. Not only can I guarantee your entire family prosperity, but I can also bring you into the sanctuary, as long as you obediently become my concubine. How about it?" The celestial beauty's eyes flashed with determination. "I would rather die in glory than live in dishonor." Swish! The celestial beauty took out a delicate long sword and swiped it across her neck. Fong Qingzhou's expression changed, and he threatened, "Try killing yourself. I will immediately let my father destroy your entire family." She could not even die. The celestial beauty was sad. "Unless I am satisfied, your entire family will not have peace. Xia Jingyu, you better think clearly." Fong Qingzhou sneered. He was certain that Xia Jingyu would submit to him. She valued kinship and family very much. He had coveted Xia Jingyu for too long. From a moment he arrived at the Martial Arts Training Institute in Xinyu Prefecture and saw Xia Jingyu. He had coveted her wonderful body. Unfortunately, his father was in seclusion in the sanctuary, and he could not be too arrogant. After waiting for a full year, when his father came to the training institute, he finally could not hold back his animal nature. Xia Jingyu, he must have her. Thinking of riding Xia Jingyu, the lover of countless people's dreams, letting her F***ck her, conquer her, and ravage her, Feng Qingzhou became excited. The celestial beauty's eyes became even more determined, and her voice was mournful and resolute. Even if I die, don't even think about tarnishing my innocence. My father, even if I offend the sanctuary by committing suicide, will be proud of me, proud of his daughter. Using death to prove her innocence was the celestial beauty's final choice. Damn it! Stop! Feng Qingzhou miscalculated and was greatly remorseful. The celestial beauty's upright temperament was unexpected. The celestial beauty smiled sadly. Feng Qingzhou, the cycle of the heavens and retribution. If you're unhappy, you'll get the punishment you deserve. She was about to commit suicide. The celestial beauty was about to perish. Boom! Suddenly a hole exploded in the wall. 2 iron arrows, fast as lightning, shot toward the two of them. One of the arrows shot toward Feng Qingzhou's eyes. The other arrow shot toward the sword in the celestial beauty's hand. Suddenly attacked, Feng Qingzhou hurriedly dodged. The celestial beauty, on the other hand, was sore and weak from the effects of the drug. Unable to resist, the sword in her hand fell. Whoosh! A massed white shadow suddenly shot out of the hole, grabbed the celestial beauty's astonishingly soft waist, took her away, and flew into the hole. Feng Qingzhou reacted furious, put her down. The terrifying power of blood, the powerful breath of a level 4 upper tier of the martial path, swept over. Su Yu's body froze, breathing with difficulty, and felt a deadly palm force behind him. Chapter 25. Bang! A fist and a palm collided, exploding with a loud noise that reverberated in the secret underground chamber. Su Yu was knocked back 5 or 6 meters by the palm. A metallic taste came from his throat, and his internal organs were shaken. Borrowing the force of the palm, he picked up the celestial beauty and leaped into the cave. Feng Qingzhou was aghast. Although he had knocked Su Yu back, he had also been knocked back 3 meters by Su Yu's punch. A numbing pain came from his palm. What a terrifying body. Su Yu was clearly only at level 3 peak, but with his body, he had reached level 4 lower tier. Feng Qingzhou was furious to see his opponent snatch his woman away. The speed of a level 4 upper tier was astonishing, and he rushed to the entrance of the cave in the blink of an eye. Whoosh, whoosh! At that moment, 3 fiery red teeth attacked at the same time. Boom, boom, boom! 3 rumbling explosions, accompanied by fierce flames, engulfed Feng Qingzhou. Ah! Feng Qingzhou roared in pain and rolled back 3 times before he managed to put out the flames around him. Not only were most of his clothes burned, but his hair and eyebrows were also completely burned. His facial muscles were badly mangled from burns. A face so handsome that women would be jealous of him was like a ghost, miserable and embarrassed. I'll kill you. The severe pain aroused Feng Qingzhou's ferocity, and he roared as he rushed into the tunnel. Su Yu had already escaped into the depths of the tunnel. The celestial beauty's eyes were misty and her mind was fuzzy. Her fairy-like face was flushed, and her snowy eyes were filled with lust. Watching the flames burn, especially when she was held in the arms of a strong male, she was even more unable to extricate herself. She subconsciously wrapped her arms around Su Yu's neck and kissed him with her red lips, her body constantly twisting. Su Yu's eyes were calm as he struck the back of her neck with a knife hand strike, knocking her out. The situation was critical. This was the only way. Behind him, Feng Qingzhou's roar could be vaguely heard. Su Yu's heart sank. The strength of a level 4 upper tier was extraordinary. Even if he used Cloud Shadow, it would be difficult to escape. However, this tunnel was special. There was water vapor from the jade fire marrow, which had a strong burning power on the skin. Fang Qingzhou might not be able to catch up with him. Suddenly, the unconscious celestial beauty let out a soft moan. Suyu lowered his head to take a look at her. She was breathing rapidly, her brows slightly furrowed, and her skin was slightly flushed. I was too careless. The water vapor of the jade fire marrow in the tunnel had already entered a relatively heavy area. The celestial being in the painting was a woman who had not gone through physical tempering, so naturally, she could not bear it. After thinking for a moment, Suyu laid her flat on the ground and took out a snakeskin from his pocket. This was the snakeskin of the fire dragon snake. Not only was it extremely hard, but it was also made of fire-attributed materials. It was very effective against fire. This snakeskin was something that he had bargained with the black market merchant. After Suyu went back, he used a needle and thread to stitch it up. Although it was rather crude, it could still be considered a set of inner armor. He quickly put it on the celestial being. Her lower body was like a pair of pants and was very easy to put on. The upper body was in the shape of a jacket with sewn buttons. The style was completely modern clothing. However, when he was buttoning her blouse, his fingers inevitably caressed her round and hot breasts. It was as if he had touched a certain firm cherry. Under the influence of the drug, the top of her breasts had already stood proudly. Suyu could not help but be distracted. A peerless beauty was lying in front of him, allowing him to pick and choose. Her exquisite body and towering breasts made his heart heat up. Ah! A weak cry inadvertently came from the celestial being's red lips. Suyu touched her breasts. Under the effects of the drug, the celestial being was very sensitive. Shaking his head and clearing his mind, Suyu quickly put on the snakeskin inner armor for her, picked her up, and quickly went up. Sure enough, with the snakeskin inner armor, the celestial being's pained expression gradually weakened and eventually calmed down. As for Fang Qingzhou, he was screaming again and again behind him, suffering from the water vapor of the jade fire marrow. His speed was slowly unable to keep up, and Suyu gradually pulled away from him. 2 hours later, Suyu emerged from the tunnel. He immediately found several large stones around and threw them into the tunnel to seal the entrance. Fang Qingzhou, who was in the narrow tunnel, could not use his hands and feet. It was not easy to break through so many stones. Thus, Suyu carried the celestial being and leaped through the forest. Half a day later, he found a hidden cave and laid her flat in it. He then moved several boulders and sealed the entrance. This was to prevent her from being discovered and attacked by wild beasts while she was unconscious. At this point, Suyu quickly left, returning to the institute. At the same time, in the cave in the valley. Bang! The last stone was thrown out, and Fang Qingzhou emerged with his face covered in dirt, his whole body hot. His handsome face was completely disfigured. Glancing around to make sure he had lost them, Fang Qingzhou roared like a wild beast. Bastard! Don't let me find out who it is. Otherwise, I'll tear you to pieces. Another half a day passed, and night fell. The celestial being slowly woke up, touching the slightly sore back of her neck, her expression confused. Slowly, she gradually recalled what had happened, and her heart trembled. She immediately checked her body. Fortunately, there were no signs of violation, and her chastity was still intact. Snakeskin armor. The celestial being was lost in her memories. Before her consciousness blurred, she only remembered a masked white shadow suddenly jumping out of the stone wall, shooting 2 arrows, taking her away, and using something explosive to repel Fang Qingzhou. Then, she was knocked unconscious by him. It was he who saved me. The celestial being analyzed the cause and effect of the incident, her slender, jade-like hands clutching the armor on her body, her heart indescribably grateful. If he had not appeared in time, she would have had to kill herself to preserve her innocence. She could not even rule out the possibility that Fang Qingzhou would have done something outrageous to her body after her death. Who is he? To be able to withstand a blow from Fang Qingzhou, he must be very strong. The celestial being's calm heart rippled like an autumn lake. She desperately wanted to find her savior and thank him in person. Although the other person might not care, she wanted to convey this gratitude in person. Suddenly, The celestial being thought of a person. Although the other person was masked, she was somewhat familiar with his eyes. They were as deep as the ancient starry sky, calm and determined. However, this person was far more powerful than the Silver King. Suyu she knew. It cannot be him. Who the hell are you? The celestial being's beautiful eyes rippled. 10 miles away, in a secret place, Suyu found a safe place to recover his strength. After a while, he let out a light breath and touched the big red bow on his back, feeling much more relaxed. Celestial being, I said that day that I would repay the bow in the future. Today, I have saved you, and I have repaid the debt between us. Suyu smiled, closed his eyes again, and continued to practice. 10 days later, at the edge of the Twilight Mountains, Suyu's eyes had a hint of satisfaction. During the 10 days, he traveled during the day and cultivated at night. For Suyu, cultivating for one night was equivalent to cultivating for 20 nights. Therefore, in 10 nights, he had actually cultivated for a full 200 nights. Cloud Shadow was a lightness skill that focused on comprehension. He had already cultivated it to the 3rd level of mastery. He was only a step away from cultivating it to the state of great completion. Now, his speed was comparable to that of a level 4 upper class, which was why he could return in 10 days. As for Tempest, a medium-level cultivation technique that was extremely difficult to comprehend, he had also successfully cultivated to stage 2 upper class. Now, his leg technique was bone-chilling, and anyone who was swept by would feel cold. Demonic Eyes had not made much progress, still at stage 2 top class. The final Purple Star Thunderbolt had not made any progress, which made Suyu smile bitterly. However, in the underground ruins, he had imitated the finger technique of the old man in the mural with greater proficiency. Although he was tens of thousands of miles away from the old man, there was a unique charm to it. Suyu faintly felt that if he could understand the mystery behind it, his strength would be greatly improved. At dawn, Suyu left the Twilight Mountains. He did not return to the Institute, but instead entered the market. In his hands, he had the skin of a giant barbed tiger, the tooth of a flaming lion, and 3,000 taels of silver notes, which he could buy some useful items. The big red bow was of good quality, and he could use it for the time being. As for the arrow, it was nothing. The last time he killed the fire dragon, it had only penetrated a few inches into its flesh. Ordinary iron arrows could kill wild beasts, but killing demonic beasts was difficult. But before that, Suyu had to get rid of the demonic beast materials he had. All of these materials came from a good source and could be sold on the market without worry. Suyu came to the largest demonic beast material store in the Shinyu Prefecture. The place was large, the space was open, and the crowd was crowded. Shopkeeper, do you accept demonic beast materials? Suyu went straight to the counter. The shopkeeper lazily leaned against the counter, half squinting, looking Suyu up and down. He lazily waved his hand. This store does not accept materials. Please find another place. It was common for young martial artists like Suyu to pick up demonic beast fur and other items from the mountains and exchange them for treasures. The shopkeeper did not want to waste time. Suyu was stunned. He nodded and turned around, shrugging his shoulders and muttering, "The skin of a giant barbed tiger, the tooth of a flaming lion. Are they not valuable? Let's go to the black market. They should accept them." Swish! The shopkeeper's old eyes glowed, suddenly opening his eyes. He quickly walked out from the counter and asked in surprise, "You have such precious demonic beast goods?" The giant barbed tiger was one of the top-level demonic beasts and was extremely difficult to kill. Martial artists often had to pay a heavy price to kill it. Suyu glanced at him with a faint smile. "Why? You didn't accept demonic beast materials just now, but you changed the rules so quickly and started accepting now?" The shopkeeper looked down on Suyu. How could Suyu not see through him? He wanted to embarrass the shopkeeper a little. The shopkeeper laughed dryly and said politely, "I was blind. Young master, please move to the inner room and we can discuss in detail." Suyu waved his hand. "No need, as long as the price is right." Suyu did not have the energy to bargain. He took out the barbed tiger skin and the flaming lion's tooth on the spot. As a student of the Martial Arts Training Institute, coupled with the fact that he was in the city, he was not afraid of anyone envious. The shopkeeper was excited. The skin of the giant barbed tiger was priceless. The flaming lion's tooth was also a rare treasure. The tiger's skin is 1,200 taels. The flaming lion's tooth is 500 taels. A total of 1,700 taels. How about it? The shopkeeper gave a moderate price. So you thought it was reasonable and nodded his head in agreement. The shopkeeper was overjoyed. It was rare to meet such an easygoing customer in such a large transaction. Good. This one admires young master's character very much. How about this? I'll give you 2,000 taels this time. If you have good materials next time, please take care of my shop. I'll buy them at a high price. The shopkeeper did Suyu a favor. Suyu smiled and thanked him. He received 2,000 taels of silver and was about to leave. Bang, crack. Chapter 26. Looking sideways, in an empty corner of the shop, a group of martial artists was watching. In the middle, there seemed to be a fight going on. It seemed that it had been a while, but Suyu had not noticed it before. Shopkeeper, are you not afraid that your shop will be destroyed? Suyu mocked. With the size of this shop, there should be someone behind it. It was really strange that someone dared to make trouble here. A bitter smile spread across his face, and the shopkeeper sighed helplessly. That depends on who the saboteur is. They have been here for some time. They are the gold students of the Institute. It is said that they are ranked 3rd and were publicly challenged by the white armor guards of the Shinyu Prefecture. The shopkeeper shook his head. The white armor guards of the Shinyu Prefecture are at least level 4 of the martial path. How could the gold students be their match? I just went over to take a look. It was a terrible sight. In the Shinyu Prefecture, there were black armor guards and white armor guards. So you had seen the black armor guards once. They were murderous, and each was a powerful level 5 of the martial path. The white armor guards were level 4 of the martial path and were the backbone of maintaining order in the Shinyu Prefecture. Bang! A light hum was heard. Someone was knocked to the ground. The gold students of the Institute are just SOSO. Among the onlookers, a 20-year-old white armor guard stood with his hands behind his back. His white armor shone brightly, accentuating his tall figure. Beside the white armor guard, Li Mingho stood with a faint smile. His eyes were filled with pleasure as he coldly stared at the person lying on the ground. Lu Xian, when you drove me away from the team, I thought you had a great opportunity. It seems that you have not made much progress. Lu Xian, who was beaten to the ground, had a swollen nose and a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He could not exert any strength. A bitter smile formed in his heart. He had just returned from the Twilight Mountains. Unexpectedly, when he entered the shop, he bumped into Li Mingho and his cousin Li Jinshan. Li Mingho had not been able to get the treasures in the cave, guarded by the demonic beasts. Thus, Li Jinshan challenged him. Li Jinshan had the terrible strength of a level 4 lower tier. How could he compare? Lu Xian struggled to get up. He dejectedly clasped his hands, clutched his abdomen, and awkwardly separated from the crowd. Just then, he noticed Suyu standing outside the crowd with his hands behind his back. He was startled at first, but then he hurriedly gave him a look, telling him to leave quickly. Even he had suffered such revenge from Li Mingho, let alone Suyu. Suyu, so you are here too. Unfortunately, Li Mingho's sharp eyes had discovered Suyu's presence. A wisp of resentment shot out from Li Mingho's eyes. Cousin, it's him. Li Jinshan's eyes were as cold as lightning. He parted the crowd and strode toward Suyu. Squinting his eyes, he ordered coldly, "Was it you who injured Mingho? Good. I, Li Jinshan, challenge you. Prepare for battle." Suyu's expression was calm, and he turned a deaf ear to him as he turned around to leave. He was not interested in a meaningless competition. The onlookers shook their heads. Li Jinshan is going too far. A 4th celestial layer challenging a 3rd celestial layer is an unfair victory. Who asked them to have no background? Let's see if Li Jinshan has the guts to challenge Qin Feng and Feng Qingzhou among the gold students. Li Jinshan was unmoved by the whispers. Seeing that Suyu was ignoring him, Li Jinshan's eyes shone brightly, and he attacked brazenly. "Fight or not, it's up to me. You have to fight whether you want to or not." Li Jinshan's palm turned into a claw and fiercely clawed at Su Yu's back. Su Yu frowned. This person was really overbearing, or perhaps he bullied the weak and feared the strong. He even used a sneak attack. With a tap of his toes, Cloud Shadow was displayed. In the eyes of the crowd, Li Jinshan's sneak attack was about to succeed, but Su Yu did not even look back. His figure was free and easy, like the shadow of a cloud, like duckweed on the waves of a river. With a light leap, he easily dodged the attack. Li Jinshan was surprised. Admittedly, he had only used 30% of his strength, but how could the other party be so relaxed? Hey, I didn't know you had some skills. Not bad, I won't be polite. Li Jinshan smiled coldly. Mountain Fist. Li Jinshan's powerful level 4 celestial layer energy suddenly spread. The invisible aura forced the onlookers to retreat. Hiss! Li Jinshan is so ruthless, taking the opportunity to hit hard. When he beat Lu Xian, he did not use his full strength, but now he is going all out. Su Yu is going to suffer. Mountain Fist, medium-level cultivation technique. Swoosh! A punch came, and the shadow of the fist overlapped. The powerful force suppressed the air and slightly whimpered. The huge power that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas came from above. Su Yu frowned, and his right foot lashed out like a whip. The shadow of the leg was heavy, and the strong body that had been transformed by the jade dragon marrow erupted with a terrifying force. The strength of this leg was beyond common sense. Bang! The two each took 3 steps back. Su Yu's face was calm and indifferent. Li Jinshan, on the other hand, took a deep breath and secretly shook his numb fist. What a strong physical strength, what a fast leg technique. Li Jinshan secretly said 2 strong words in one breath. A level 4 suppressing a level 3 should have been in the bag, but it ended in a tie. The most important thing was that the other party only used physical strength and did not use any cultivation technique. Li Mingho was aghast and incredulous. So you could actually block a blow from his cousin? Lu Xian also could not believe it. When did Su Yu reach such a terrible strength? Li Jinshan and Qin Feng were strong people of the same level. Are you really the Silver King? Li Jinshan could not believe it. How could a silver student be so strong? Su Yu said indifferently, "You don't want to continue?" Li Jinshan's face turned green and red. Just now, he was overbearing and arrogant, forcing the other party to challenge. Now, how could he back down? Boy, don't be arrogant. You don't understand the strength of a level 4. Li Jinshan snorted and growled. A stream of pure energy circled around his arm. Lu Xian's expression changed greatly. Su Yu, go. He's going to use vital energy. You can't be his opponent. Vital energy could only be condensed in the realm of level 4. Stepping into level 4, one could cultivate vital energy in the body. The energy was pure and full of explosive power. Vital energy played a vital role for a level 4 to firmly suppress a level 3. Mountain Opening Fist. The same move, after using vital energy, was more than doubled in power. Woo-woo. The air vibrated slightly, and the airflow was so chaotic that the shadow of the fist was blurry. A feeling that made one's heart palpitate suddenly came crashing down. So he was not afraid. Tempest. His right foot lashed out like a whip. Traces of cold air, wrapped in the cold wind, swept like blades. Before the leg even arrived, the cold air swept across the surroundings. Traces of white cold mist flickered from time to time. Crack, bang. The two of them each took a step back. So he was still relaxed. Li Jinshan was different. His fist was covered in a layer of ice, piercing to the bone. The blood in his fist was blocked, and the flow of vital energy was not smooth, slightly stiff. A look of shock flashed across Li Jinshan's face. You don't want to continue fighting? Su Yu asked calmly. Li Jinshan was annoyed. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Swish. The two figures intertwined, one after the other. Bang, bang, crack. Mountain Opening Fist. Tempest. Bang, bang, boom. 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves. 4 moves, 5 moves, 6 moves. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, The two had exchanged more than 100 moves. Is that Su Yu really the Silver King? He's so strong. The Gold King is only SOSO. Compared to the Gold King, Su Yu is much weaker, but comparable to the second-ranked Qinfeng. At this moment, crack, bang, Li Jinshan spat out a mouthful of blood. Su Yu kicked him in the chest, and his body drew a beautiful parabola and fell heavily to the ground. Wah! Li Jinshan spat out a mouthful of blood. Looking closely, the blood he spat out had a trace of cold mist. His body, especially his fists, were completely covered in ice. His entire body was pale from the cold, and he couldn't help but shiver. Li Jinshan was horrified. Every time he came into contact with the other's leg technique, the chill on his body increased. Over time, his body moved slowly, and he was finally defeated by the other. Withdrawing his right leg, Su Yu's physical strength was slightly consumed, but not by much. His body, far stronger than ordinary people, provided him with an endless supply of physical strength. Looking at Li Jinshan, Su Yu shook his head. The white armor guard of the Duke of Xinyu's palace is just so-so, at least not as good as the Silver King. Li Mingho was horrified. Carefully leaning against the wall, he moved behind Li Jinshan, awkwardly supported him, and left dejectedly. Su Yu was too strong, so strong that Li Mingho could not bear the thought of revenge. Under the awe of the crowd, Su Yu walked away. In the opposite restaurant, a teenager with thick eyebrows and big eyes and an indifferent, silver-haired teenager quietly watched the whole process. Haha, Shaoli, we meet the silver boy from the depository of scriptures again. It looks like his strength has soared a lot. The teenager with thick eyebrows and big eyes sneered. The silver-haired teenager was indifferent and disgusted. Silver trash, not even qualified for me to fight. The teenager with thick eyebrows and big eyes was noncommittal. Su Yu strolled around the blacksmith shop and could not help but be disappointed that they were all made of ordinary iron arrows. For Su Yu and the majority of silver students, 5,000 taels of silver in hand was a huge fortune. With nothing to buy, Su Yu subconsciously looked at himself. Loose and cheap martial robes. Although clean, the workmanship was rough and there was no beauty to speak of. Although the body was clean, the skin was slightly bad, dark and rough. His hair also lacked maintenance, dry and scattered. At first glance, he looked like a poor boy. Su Yu had been a white-collar manager in his previous life. When he went out, he dressed meticulously and meticulously. In this different world, he was born poor and could only make do. It was not easy for someone like Su Yu, who was used to a meticulous lifestyle, to endure until now. Now that he had money, he naturally had to dress more respectfully. His inner self had been reborn. Once he changed the name of Trash, his outer appearance had to change as well. In this different world, there was a similar beauty service, and it was a one-stop service. Customer, we have 3 types of spirit lotions that can quickly improve the skin, but they are expensive. The cheapest one is 1 tael, applied to the skin. How many drops do you want? 1 tael of silver was enough for an ordinary person to live on for a month. Silver students only had 1 tael of silver a month. Unless one was extremely wealthy, no one would buy such an expensive spirit lotion. How many drops? I'll take a bucket first, then soak in it. Su Yu tilted his head and thought. A bucket? Okay. Wait a moment. I'll do it for you immediately. Customer, there is a special edition of the spirit lotion for hair care. You see? Take it all out and use it one by one. Good. Please wait a moment. Customer, our clothes are all made of the best silk. You don't have anything better? We do. I'll bring you the treasure of our store, the purple cloud dust-proof robe. Half a day later. Customer, this is a mirror. I'll take my leave. The serving maid was shocked, looking at Su Yu in disbelief. When he came in, she thought he was just a poor commoner. But now he was a celestial being. The contrast was so great that even she, who was immersed in this industry, was shocked. Chapter 27. With her many years of experience, even if a crow turned into a phoenix, it would still be a crow deep down. She had seen too many poor people who had gotten rich overnight. They had tried their best to beautify themselves, but but they looked neither fish nor fowl. Only this young man was naturally calm, as if he had the calmness and confidence of a natural leader. Thus, once he dressed up, the world was turned upside down. As Suyu stood in front of the mirror, he was momentarily stunned. "This is me," Suyu was surprised. In the mirror, there was a tall young man dressed in a luxurious purple robe. His head was crowned with white jade pearls, and his long black hair was neatly tied up, flowing freely behind him. His face was as white as jade, exquisite and translucent, as if it had been washed with water. His eyes were as deep as the ancient starry sky, full of wisdom and calmness. His nose was high, his cheeks thin, and his rosy lips and white teeth complemented each other. At a glance, he was a handsome young man, glowing with energy, as handsome as a celestial being from a painting. Paired with the luxurious purple robe, which outlined his tall figure, the formless elegance and handsomeness complemented each other. Suyu found it hard to believe the drastic change. This body's foundation is very good. It was originally a beautiful and elegant body, but it was trapped in poverty for a long time. Now it has been washed clean and is shining brilliantly. Suyu analyzed the situation inwardly. Now, very few people would be able to recognize him as the poor, cowardly, destitute, and lonely Suyu, whose girlfriend had been snatched away. As he walked, his purple, dust-proof robe fluttered in the wind, not a speck of dust on his body. His black hair danced in the wind, accentuating his tall back. His jade-like face reflected a faint crystalline light under the sunlight. His handsome face, like that of a celestial being, was indescribably beautiful in the light. When he walked out of the house, the surrounding world was silent for a moment. What a handsome young man! Is he the descendant of some noble family? Although he is young, his bearing is extraordinary. Suyu smiled. This smile, coupled with his handsome face, was like the bright moon in the sky, bright and brilliant, making people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. The young girls passing by shyly lowered their heads, their faces blushing as they peeked at him. Some of the more daring ones shot flirtatious glances at him. Suyu smiled and left, leaving behind only a fluttering purple shadow as he sped away. Returning to the Martial Arts Training Institute, as he walked between the academies, passers-by would frequently glance at him. The male students' eyes were filled with envy and respect. It was obvious that Suyu was a rich and noble child. There were many female students who were casting flirtatious glances at him. How strange. Apart from Qin Feng and Fang Qingzhou, are there any other handsome men in our academy? It feels like his identity is very noble. Strange, could he be our classmate? But why haven't I seen him before? With a faint smile on his face, Suyu passed through the silver students' dormitory and headed toward his own courtyard. The gold assessment would be held in 2 days. As a silver student, he would have the opportunity to challenge a gold student. Suyu only had one goal, which was to defeat Qin Feng. In front of Jiang Xueqing, in front of the entire world, he wanted to defeat him on the spot. He wanted to tell Jiang Xueqing that her decision to abandon Suyu was wrong. He wanted to tell Qin Feng that his decision to make Suyu his enemy was also wrong. When he passed by a female dormitory, he heard the sound of fighting coming from the second floor. Then, with a soft cry, a woman fell out of the window, right in Suyu's direction. Her posture was with her head on the ground. If she fell like that, even with her strength, she would still be seriously injured. Suyu had no reason to leave her in the lurch. Using the cloud, shadow, duckweed track, Suyu's toes rotated, his body as graceful as the wind, and he used the momentum to launch himself into the sky. Looking for the right opportunity, his left hand wrapped around the back of her neck, his right hand around her waist, and he hugged her in midair. Then he slowly floated down. The woman in his arms was so scared that her face turned pale, her eyes tightly shut. Just then, she really thought she was going to die. Feeling the strong and warm chest, the woman slowly opened her eyes. A young man as beautiful as a celestial being in a painting, with a white jade crown on his head and a pair of eyes as deep as the starry sky. So calm and so wise that she could not stop looking at him. She had never realized that a man could be so good-looking and that his eyes could be so attractive. Thump, thump, her heart beat faster for no reason. It was the first time in her life that her heart had throbbed. A young woman's love for a man did not need to last forever, nor did it need to be sweet nothings. Sometimes a look, a movement, a word, a figure could move her heart. The woman felt that perhaps she had met such a man. When she was in the most danger, he appeared. Although he did not say a word, she was still moved. Suyu expressionlessly put her down and looked up at the window on the second floor. A figure stretched out from the window. Qin Feng. He was looking at her with a gloomy expression, because Suyu was hugging a woman he had never even touched before, Jiang Xueqing. As for Jiang Xueqing, when she looked at Suyu, her eyes were filled with shock. This made Qin Feng furious. He was obedient to Jiang Xueqing, but Jiang Xueqing had feelings for another man. Not long after, Qin Feng walked down with a woman in his hand. It was Xian Lifei. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and she was afraid and wronged. Qin Feng grabbed her by the neck and dragged her down the stairs while crying. "Thank you for your help, brother." Qin Feng felt that the man in purple looked familiar, but he could not recall if he had such a person among the nobles he had befriended. A deep sense of threat filled his heart. The man in purple looked even more handsome than him, with unparalleled confidence and calmness. His aura of nobility was no weaker than Qin Feng's. Most importantly, Jiang Xueqing was in love for the first time. With hidden hostility, Qin Feng dragged Xian Lifei away. "I'm sorry, the elixir was really stolen by Suyu. I didn't mean it. Please let me go." Xian Lifei cried like a pitiful little doll. Qin Feng flew into a rage out of humiliation and demanded the elixir back. But the elixir worth 2,500 taels was nowhere to be found. Qin Feng had intended to demand the elixir back for Jiang Xueqing to use to break through to level 4. Who knew that Xian Lifei would insist that the elixir was stolen? Qin Feng was furious and tried to teach her a lesson. She hurriedly dodged and accidentally pushed Jiang Xueqing out of the window, causing her to fall. What happened next made Qin Feng even more furious, and he vented his anger on Xian Lifei. Qin Feng coldly snorted, "I won't forgive you." With Qin Feng's ruthless nature, Xian Lifei would not have a good ending. Xian Lifei was frightened and cried incessantly. She looked miserable and miserable. She was born poor, and her qualifications were not good. She had to carefully wander between riches to obtain various resources to cultivate. During this period of time, she felt sad, like a person drinking water. Only one knows the temperature of the water. Now, she had finally angered Qin Feng, the little duke. She, who had no power or influence, was isolated and helpless. "What elixir does she owe you?" Suyu stood with his hands behind his back, indifferently asking. Qin Feng stopped in his tracks and forced a trace of politeness on his face. "A top-grade spirit elixir. Could it be that you wish to stand up for her?" Qin Feng had no choice but to be polite to a noble son of an extraordinary background. "Take it." Suyu flicked his finger and a black box shot out. What a strong finger force. Qin Feng was secretly shocked. This person was not only handsome, but also had the air of nobility. His strength was also very strong. But with Qin Feng's cultivation base of level 4, this little bit of strength could still be resolved. He raised his hand and casually grabbed the black box. He opened it and saw a top-grade spirit elixir. Qin Feng's expression changed. "Brother, are you really going to stand up for a strange woman?" Suyu left with his hands behind his back, not even looking back. He only left a faint voice. "Let her go." His voice was not angry, but it had the majesty of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. Qin Feng struggled for a moment and actually let go. Jiang Xueqing's beautiful eyes reflected the luxurious and elegant purple figure, rippling with extraordinary splendor. A top-grade spirit elixir worth 2,500 taels of silver was given just like that. Such a carefree and unrestrained attitude, regarding money as nothing. This was the world's greatest man. A ripple appeared in her heart for the first time. "Thank you, sir, for saving me." Jiang Xueqing regained her senses and bowed to his back. So you did not look back, gradually walking further and further away. Qin Feng's expression was ugly, coldly staring at Jiang Xueqing. What? Going back on your word with me? Jiang Xueqing was shocked, hurriedly withdrawing her reluctant gaze and bowing her head apologetically. But there was a trace of regret in her heart. How good would it have been if I had met him earlier? Jiang Xueqing silently sighed in her heart. To be able to meet the man in purple that she liked and could give her glory and wealth. How perfect would it have been if he had appeared in her life earlier and taken her away from that good-for-nothing Suyu? For the first time, Jiang Xueqing felt that fate was unfair. For the first time, she was dissatisfied with Qin Feng. Once, Qin Feng was the ideal partner in her heart. But today, when she met the purple-robed young master, she understood that she could only obtain material satisfaction from Qin Feng. Her heart did not belong to Qin Feng. Even though Qin Feng was good to her and was obedient, it was difficult for her to develop feelings for him. Just like how she treated Suyu, a childhood sweetheart, but never truly moved. But now that things had come to this, she had no choice but to hide the man in her heart. Qin Feng's family was illustrious, and she could not afford to offend him. Once she abandoned him and threw herself into the arms of the man in purple, what awaited her would be an unpredictable fate. Xian Leafy-Eye escaped with tears in her eyes. She gratefully bowed to Suyu from afar. "Thank you, sir." Suyu was already far away, his weak voice carried by the wind into her ears. The corners of his mouth slightly raised. Suyu softly sighed. "That was for you." Her top-grade spirit elixir had been snatched away by Suyu in the past. Back in a courtyard, Suyu immediately went into seclusion. The golden competition was in 2 days. Suyu, wanted to stand proudly in the institute with a new attitude. In a pink boudoir of the Duke of Xinyu's palace, the young princess of Xinyu, dressed in a light yellow dress, pouted and hugged her pillow, pounding it angrily. Her small mouth muttered, "Damn father. He doesn't love me at all. He doesn't love me at all. I want to go on a hunger strike. I want to piss him off." Slap. A jade-like hand lightly slapped her perky buttocks. "You. The Duke is doing this for your own good. In the Twilight Mountains, you were molested like that. How could the Duke not be angry? Confining you is for your own good." The voice was gentle and tranquil. A faint smile hung on her beautiful face. Who else could it be but a celestial being? Even Sister Jingyu is not helping me. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. The young princess threw herself on the bed, her 2 white legs swinging back and forth. The Duke of Xinyu's palace had always had a good relationship with a martial arts training institute. The young princess of Xinyu and Xia Jingyu were about the same age, about 14 or 15 years old. Hence, they got along very well. They were good friends who grew up together and talked about everything. Chapter 28. The young princess was very unlucky. Compared to the Duke's reaction, Xia Jingyu sympathized with that person. That person obviously had good intentions, wanting to save the young princess. Without him, the young princess might have died from the poison. In short, kindness outweighed wrongdoing. The Duke had made such a big fuss, searching the entire city for the person, and was indeed too angry. But thinking about it, if it was any other father, knowing that his daughter's private breasts were being sucked by another man, how could he not be angry? Thinking back to what happened to her in the Twilight Mountains, Xia Jingyu secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, during her time of crisis, there was a righteous person who saved her, a righteous person who did not take advantage of her while she was unconscious. She was extremely lucky. "Creak, my niece, the news has been found." At this moment, a handsome middle-aged man pushed open the door, smiling warmly. Xia Jingyu was excited. "Uncle, have you really found my benefactor?" The middle-aged man was the Duke, nodding. "Yes, a flaming lion's tooth appeared in the market today. Track it down, and in less than 2 days, we will find out who sold it." Xia Jingyu was excited. She just wanted to find her benefactor and thank him in person. Without his help, her fate would have been unpredictable. Although that person was masked, Xia Jingyu was intelligent. She deduced that the 3 explosions were very similar to the flaming lion's tooth. She did not expect to find a clue. The Duke of Xinyu secretly sighed. Xia Jingyu's benefactor had been found so quickly, but there was no trace of the man who had violated his daughter. My niece, do not be excited. Even with the flaming lion's tooth, the person may not be the person you are looking for. He may covet your beauty or wealth and pretend to be your benefactor. You have to be careful. The Duke of Xinyu was experienced. Do you have any other items that you can use to confront him in court so that you do not fall for his tricks? Xia Jingyu hesitated, then took out the fire dragon snakeskin armor. This is the only item that I have. It was left behind by that righteous person. The Duke of Xinyu's smiling face slightly froze. The young princess was simple-minded and did not notice. She wrinkled her nose and muttered, "Who made this armor? It looks so ugly." The Duke of Xinyu hid his strange expression and his eyes shone. "Can you let me show it to the servants and let them search for it? Maybe there will be some clues." Xia Jingyu readily agreed. One of the servants was secretly instructed to take the leather armor back and compare it with the fire dragon snakeskin that was confiscated that day. Then, his expression changed drastically as he ran back to report. "Royal Prince, it's from the same snakeskin." The servant's face was filled with excitement. The regional king's mansion had spent a whole month trying to capture this person, and now they finally had a lead. Although the servants didn't understand why the royal prince and the young princess were so determined to catch this person, they knew that he must have committed a heinous crime. The regional king's eyes burned with rage. "Send the order. All black armored guards, go all out to find the source of the blazing lion." "Yes." Rumble, a large group of black armored guards rushed out of the regional king's mansion and searched the entire city with a murderous aura. 2 days later, Su Yu, who had no idea that a disaster was about to befall him, let out a long roar. "Ha! I've finally succeeded." Su Yu's purple robe fluttered and his black hair danced. His powerful aura rumbled in all directions. The maids who were cleaning the courtyard were shivering. Under this kind of aura, it was difficult to suppress the feeling of fear and trepidation. Level 4 of the martial path. After consuming the jade fire marrow, he had finally succeeded. But the biggest gain was that Su Yu had finally gained some understanding of the elder's finger in the mural. For 2 whole days, his body was training while his mind was trying to comprehend the finger. His 2 days were equivalent to 40 days for others. Even if it was a heavenly book, Su Yu could still comprehend a thing or two. Although he had not been able to use it and had only comprehended it, he believed that once he successfully used it, its power would be unparalleled. Secondly, he had comprehended Tempest to stage 2 top class. Now, a casual kick of his foot could bring out a wisp of white cold mist. The cold air was oppressive. In close combat, he would be successful. Finally, as a lightness cultivation technique, Cloud Shadow was completely at top class. He had comprehended the entire cultivation technique thoroughly. His speed had reached the peak of level 4, approaching the realm of level 5. As a level 4 of the martial path, his body had condensed its first wisp of vital energy. Using vital energy to display various techniques, its power rose to another level. Clang, clang, clang. The distant sound of the bell swayed in the morning light. The call for the gold assessment had finally begun. Compared to the silver assessment, the gold assessment was the true grand occasion of the Martial Arts Training Institute. 100 gold students represented the overall strength of the Martial Arts Training Institute. On this day, not only would the Deputy Housemaster, Housemaster Yi, come, the elusive first Housemaster, a level 7 of the martial path, would also come. Hearing the sound of the bell, both the gold and silver students headed towards the arena. Su Yu stood up, his purple cloud, dust-proof robe fluttering in the wind. His starry eyes shone brilliantly. "Qin Feng, I, Su Yu, am coming." The arena was still the same arena used for the silver assessment. But this time, not everyone could enter. Those who are not in the top 100 silver ranks are not allowed to enter. At the entrance of the arena, 2 powerful guards at the 4th level of the martial Dao indifferently announced the rules. It had been the same in the past. Other than disappointment, the silver students were not satisfied. The silver students in the top 100 proudly displayed their student tags and entered. Suyu leisurely walked over. His luxurious aura and handsome appearance, which made him look like a celestial being from a painting, shocked everyone. The crowd made way for him, extremely curious. "Who are you?" the two powerful guards berated. Suyu took out his token and flashed it in front of the two guards, then floated in. The two guards could not stop him in time. "Did you see who that was? If my eyes are not playing tricks on me, isn't that?" The two did not continue, unable to believe what they had just seen. The Silver King. "Suyu looked like that? Didn't they hear that he was just a poor student?" The two of them looked at each other as if they had seen a ghost. The silver students outside were all surprised. "I say, who is that man in purple? I saw his silver student tag in his hand." "I saw it too, but among the silver students, do we have such a handsome and outstanding person?" The crowd looked at each other. Suyu entered. The arena was very spacious, enough for 10,000 people to watch, but only 200 were allowed. 100 silver students and 100 gold students. Suyu arrived late. They were all gathered near the center of the arena, occupying the most front positions. The competition had not yet begun. Only the referee and the gold students preparing for the competition were present. The higher-ups of the school had not arrived yet. Coincidentally, the referee for the competition was still Jiang Zhishu, a level 4 peak, extremely frightening strength. Thinking back to the day when he had fought for the Silver King title, he had taken the opportunity to injure Suyu. Suyu remembered this. "Old thing, I, Suyu, have never forgotten this grudge." Suyu's eyes flashed coldly. Jiang Zhishu scanned the crowd, confirming that the students were all present. After the gold assessment, the silver students have the right to challenge the corresponding gold students, and the gold students can also challenge the corresponding silver students, Jiang Zhishu said coldly. "For example, this year's Gold King can challenge this year's Silver King, and vice versa." Jiang Zhishu stepped on a certain part of the arena, as if there was a mechanism. Creak, creak, the ground rumbled, and 3 5-meter-tall stone pillars rose from the ground, standing among the audience. Standing on the stone pillars, one could overlook any corner of the arena. It was the most convenient place to watch the battles. Among the students present, the 3 strongest will get one. The winner will have the priority to challenge the opponent. This meant that as long as one could get one of the 3 seats after the gold assessment was over, the people above would have the priority to challenge the opponent. If Suyu could get one of the seats, he could challenge Qin Feng first instead of waiting to be challenged. The stronger ones will get it. "Let the fight begin." Jiang Zhishu gave the order. None of the silver students dared to move. They only looked at the 100 gold students with envy. Suyu's eyes were like lightning. His purple robe and black hair danced in the wind, leaving behind a trail of purple shadows in the crowd. "Hiss! So fast! Who is the purple-robed man? Look, who is that purple-robed man?" Bang! Wherever Suyu passed, the crowd was sent flying. Shocked, angry, and thunderous roars filled the air. His speed was comparable to a level 4 peak, unparalleled. Swoosh, swoosh, his purple robe blazed, and he was the first to rush up the stone pillar and occupy a throne. "Which son of a bitch is blind and wants to steal my things?" A burly youth with a ferocious face raised his head and scolded. Below the stone pillar, where Suyu was, there was a chorus of angry curses. One by one, they climbed up, wanting to compete with Suyu. "Get lost!" Suyu's nostrils flared, and the powerful level 4 energy came crashing down. Level 4? The burly youth, who was cursing, sucked in a breath of cold air. He was the 5th gold student, a level 3 peak, but he understood that in the eyes of a level 4, he was not worth mentioning. Below the stone pillar where Suyu was, there was complete silence. Level 4. It was actually level 4. Who is he? Among the gold students, besides Qin Feng and Feng Qingzhou, there is a 3rd level 4 expert. And, have you seen him? Is he a student of our academy? Why have I never seen him? Powerful and terrifying strength, handsome as a deity, noble and calm temperament. Why had they never heard of such an elite person? Among the silver students, many looked at each other. They all felt that this purple-robed gold student was very familiar, but could not remember who he was. Jiang Xueqing sat among the silver students, her slender, jade-like hands supporting her chin, her eyes staring blankly at the ground. Sometimes giggling, sometimes shy, sometimes distressed. Since the day before yesterday, there had been a lingering purple-robed figure in her mind. She would never be able to forget that pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars. "Hey, can I see him again? Even if it's just to say thank you in person." Jiang Xueqing sighed softly. Hearing the commotion around her, Jiang Xueqing's eyebrows slightly curved, and she looked in the direction they were pointing. A familiar purple-robed figure came into view. He was tall, elegant, and handsome like a celestial being in a painting. What left the deepest impression on her was his eyes, which were as deep as the stars. "It's the purple-robed man." Jiang Xueqing covered her mouth, her beautiful eyes shining with excitement. "It's him. It's really him." In the past 2 days, she had often hoped to see him again, and had even come to the dormitory several times. Unfortunately, her wish had never come true. Chapter 29. At this moment, she only wanted to know the name of the man she had fallen in love with for the first time. Somewhere in the arena, there were 3 special existences. Xia Jingyu, the silver-haired youth, and the thick-browed youth sat quietly in a corner. Senior Jingyu is that purple-robed youth. There was actually someone at the 4th heaven of the martial path. Why hadn't I heard of it? I should have seen the top 10 gold students. The thick-browed youth looked puzzled. Xia Jingyu's fairy-like face was filled with confusion. "That's strange. I've never seen him either. I'm sure there's no such person among the gold students." For some reason, Xia Jingyu felt that she had seen the purple-robed youth before. But when he compared all the young masters he knew in his mind, none of them were similar. The silver-haired youth's cold face was filled with contempt. Still a piece of trash. The appearance of the purple-robed youth caused a commotion. None of the people present recognized him. All of them were baffled by this. Some even suspected that he had snuck in from outside the institute. What kind of playboy is he? He's so handsome. A candid girl stared straight at Suyu. "I'm so embarrassed." A shy girl did not dare to look directly at him, only daring to sneak a peek. Unparalleled strength, handsome face, and noble temperament were enough to make the hearts of young girls flutter. Thud, thud. 2 light sounds came from beside Suyu. Qin Feng and Fong Qingzhou, who were slightly slower than Suyu, had arrived at their own stone pillars. The 2 of them were the strongest people present, and naturally no one could compete with them. 3 strong people had appeared, occupying 3 thrones. Qin Feng's pupils constricted, a hint of hostility looming in his eyes. How could he not know why Jiang Xueqing had been so distracted for the past 2 days? She had been thinking about this mysterious purple-robed youth day and night. "I am Qin Feng. May I know your name?" Qin Feng cupped his fists, his demeanor polite. The other party was a powerful level 4 martial artist. Suyu looked straight ahead, sat down cross-legged, and calmly said, "Your old friend." "My old friend?" Qin Feng could not recall that among the nobles he had befriended, there was someone with such talent, appearance, and temperament who did not lose to him. Fong Qingzhou was puzzled. He looked Suyu up and down and said suspiciously, "I've never seen you before. Are you someone from outside the institute?" Suyu did not reply. He had witnessed Fong Qingzhou's despicable behavior in the underground relic with his own eyes. He did not even want to dirty himself by saying a single word to such a person. "Humph! How dare you be so arrogant in front of this young master? Fine. When the competition is over, please come on stage and see how good you are." Fong Qingzhou glared at him. His gaze subconsciously drifted to a certain corner and paused for a moment on a beautiful, picturesque figure. A trace of pity flashed in his eyes, followed by great hatred. "Don't let me find out who ruined my plans." Clenching his fists, Fong Qingzhou's anger flashed. If he hadn't appeared out of nowhere and saved Xia Jingyu, he would have gotten his hands on her. Even a corpse would do. Jiang Zhisher looked at Suyu suspiciously. He faintly felt that Suyu looked familiar, but he could not put a finger on him. Rumble. A clamor came from the entrance of the arena. Under the respectful gazes of many students, teachers, and administrators, the three mighty men slowly entered the arena. One of them was Housemaster Yi, in charge of punishment. So you owed him a favor. But among the three, Housemaster Yi walked at the back, his expression solemn and dignified as he cautiously followed the man in front of him. It was a gentle and elegant man, with dashing eyebrows and starry eyes. He wore a long white robe, his black hair flying in the wind. Although he had a scholarly temperament, he had a natural dignity. He was the housemaster of the Martial Arts Training Institute of the Xinyu Prefecture, Xiaolinshan. His abilities had reached the frightening level 7 of the martial path. He was the legend of the Xinyu Prefecture, invincible. The students who were staring at him were filled with admiration. Xiaolinshan, the strongest legend of the Xinyu Prefecture, the lifelong goal of countless students. But Xiaolinshan was not the one walking at the front. Walking at the front was a handsome middle-aged man, his eyes long and narrow, filled with a cold glint. An invisible arrogance surrounded him. Even someone as strong as Xiaolinshan was not worth mentioning in his eyes. His face was shockingly similar to Feng Qingzhou's. On the 3 stone pillars, Feng Qingzhou's face was filled with joy. Qin Feng's face was filled with awe. He, who had always been arrogant, did not even dare to breathe. The 3 of them took their seats. Feng Qingzhou's father, Feng Yun, sat in the middle of the VIP seats. The housemaster, Xiaolinshan, and the deputy housemaster, Yi Xian, sat on either side. Su Yu's eyes lit up. Is that Feng Qingzhou's father? Or is it his uncle? Where did he come from to have such a high status? His experience was limited to the Xinyu Prefecture. In Su Yu's eyes, the Xinyu Prefecture was vast and filled with geniuses. The strongest legend was the housemaster of the Training Institute, rumored to be the strongest person in the Xinyu Prefecture, Xiaolinshan. But after meeting Feng Yun, Su Yu knew that there was a wider world out there. Xiaolinshan nodded at Jiang Zhishe. Jiang Zhishe was full of energy, his expression solemn as he solemnly announced, "The gold assessment officially begins." Similar to the silver assessment, all the gold students were divided into 10 groups according to their student numbers. The 10 strongest students would then compete for a ranking, and the final competition would be for the honor of the Gold King. A month ago, Su Yu would have been indescribably excited about the Gold Top 100 competition. Now that his horizons had been broadened, he had lost interest. 3 hours later, the top 100 competition ended, and the top 10 were born. On the rostrum, Xiaolinshan was gentle and refined. "Inspector Feng, how are the abilities of this year's gold students?" Feng Yin did not even lift his eyelids, looking arrogant. His eyes swept over the remaining 10 people, and finally landed on his son, Feng Qingzhou, before revealing a slight smile. "Not bad." Xiaolinshan smiled lightly. Yi Xian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "We have successfully passed this year," Yi Xian thought to himself. Feng Yun was from the sanctuary, and his duty was to supervise the teaching of the Martial Arts Training Institute in the Xinyu Prefecture. If the talents and abilities of this year's students were too poor, he had the authority to replace the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Punishment Institute. Although Feng Yun was only at level 7 of the martial path, comparable to the housemaster. But Feng Yun came from the sanctuary and was supervising on behalf of the sanctuary. With such authority, how could the housemaster compare? In the eyes of ordinary people, the Martial Arts Training Institute was a gathering of geniuses, a transcendent existence above the imperial power. But few people knew that the Martial Arts Training Institute was just a branch of the sanctuary. The master of the sanctuary, the Holy King, devoted himself to nurturing the world's heroes. Therefore, martial arts training institutes were set up in each of the 13 prefectures of the Fenglin Empire. He also sent 13 inspectors to monitor the teaching progress of the institute, and if there was any slack, severe punishment would be meted out. There was once a higher-up of the Martial Arts Training Institute who misappropriated the resources given to the students for his own use, delaying the training of an entire generation of students. When the inspectors found out, Everyone from the housemaster to the deacons were executed on the spot. Inspector Fong, in theory, had the authority to execute all of the higher-ups, because he represented the sanctuary. This time, Fong Yun was also here to monitor the abilities of this year's students. Hearing that Fong Yun was satisfied, the crowd secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This year's work was considered a success. The top 10 competition began. The strongest performers were Fong Qingzhou and Qin Feng. With the terrifying strength of a level 4 of the martial path, they defeated their opponents in 3 moves. The two advanced triumphantly and finally entered the semi-finals. Fong Qingzhou fought against the 6th strongest gold-ranked fighter. Consecutive 8 trigram fingers. Fong Qingzhou growled, displaying a set of top-notch medium-level techniques. Clap, clap, clap. In just 3 moves, the opponent vomited blood and was defeated. Xiao Linxian had a look of admiration. Consecutive 8 trigram fingers is a top-notch medium-level technique, extremely powerful, and requires an extremely high level of comprehension to be able to comprehend it. Your son was able to cultivate it to the 2nd level, which shows how strong his comprehension is. Fong Yun had a proud look on his face, deeply proud of his son. On the surface, he pretended to be humble and shook his head slightly. Qingzhou's temperament is not good. It will be difficult for him to achieve great things. Amidst the admiration of countless young girls, Fong Qingzhou elegantly returned to the stone pillar, throwing a provocative look at Qin Feng. Qin Feng, I heard that you want to win the Gold King title? Let me see how much you're worth. Don't embarrass yourself in front of your fox fairy girlfriend. Speaking of Jiang Xueqing, Fong Qingzhou could not help but look back at her in the crowd, a hint of passion flashing in his eyes. This was one of the 3 beauties who was as beautiful as a fox fairy, and he had thought of stealing her, but Qin Feng had beaten him to it. The other party was the son of Duke Qin, and he could not offend him too deeply, so he let it go. Qin Feng smiled stiffly. He did not dare to talk back to Fong Qingzhou's strange sarcasm. His father Fong Yun's background was too great, and the entire Qin family might not be able to compare to him. The word saint decided everything. Qin Feng flew to the arena. His popularity was also very high, and there were many cheering for him. He was talented, powerful, handsome, and had an illustrious family background. Qin Feng had all the qualifications to be a girl's dream lover. Jiang Xueqing was one of the few who did not look at him. Since the appearance of the purple-robed man, she had not looked away. Although she was a realistic person, she was still a young girl. It was fine if she did not fall in love, but if she did, it would seep deep into her bones. Qin Feng's expression was solemn. His opponent was the 5th-ranked gold student, and also the gold student who had fought with Su Yu for the stone pillar. Great monument Buddha's palm. Qin Feng growled. The wind from his palm was swift and fierce, causing a series of weak explosions in the air. Bang! His opponent was sent flying to the ground with 1 palm strike, spitting blood and fainting. Xiao Linxian was shocked. Qin Feng's strength has improved tremendously. He has actually broken through to level 4 upper tier. The Great Monument Buddha's palm is not a secret technique of our training institute. It should have been obtained by the Qin family. It is also a top-notch medium-level technique with great power. For him to cultivate it to stage 2 top class, his level of comprehension is also quite high. Xiao Linquan's eyes flickered. In fact, to save Fong Yun's face, he had said less. In terms of power, the Great Monument Buddha's palm was comparable to the consecutive 8 trigrams finger, but techniques were mutually reinforcing and restraining. The Buddha's palm slightly restrained the 8 trigrams finger. At the same level, Qin Feng was slightly stronger. Fong Yun's brows slightly creased, but he did not comment. Su Yu's pupil shrank. Qin Feng had actually reached level 4 upper tier, comparable to Fong Qingzhou. After a long time, Su Yu's face showed a strong desire to fight. It would be more meaningful to defeat Qin Feng. No matter how strong Qin Feng was, Su Yu, would eventually catch up to him. The gold assessment had finally entered its final segment. Chapter 30. With a serious expression, Fong Qingzhou flew down and looked Qin Feng up and down. His contempt was gone. I didn't expect you to have a breakthrough. Your strength has improved a lot. Qinfen glanced at the fox-like Jiang Shuetching in the crowd with a determined look, because he had promised to marry her in the name of the Gold King. To achieve this goal, he had trained hard for a month and finally gained something. Qinfen nodded and struck a pose. Make your move, Brother Fong. This year's Golden King is mine. You are not worthy, Fong Qingzhou shouted. How could he allow an outsider to snatch what belonged to him? Consecutive 8 trigram fingers. Fong Qingzhou moved like a shadow and quickly approached Qinfen. His fingers flew like a dragon, following the trajectory of the 8 trigrams. It changed unpredictably and intersected with reality, and it contained extraordinary might that was difficult to fathom. Qinfen looked serious. Great Monument Buddha's palm. The wind from the palm was fierce, and there were frequent explosions. Gusts of wind curled around the palm, like a breath of anger, waiting to be released. Bang! A palm and a finger collided. Both of them took a step back. It was a draw. Fong Qingzhou said sternly, I am the Golden King. Who dares to compete? The overbearing and arrogant roar made Xia Linxian frown. Relying on his father's prestige, this boy was rude, arrogant, and despicable, threatening his opponent not to win. How despicable! Unfortunately, Qinfen was not an ordinary civilian, but a minor duke. The stronger one gets it. If you want to protect the Golden King, you have to beat me first. Qinfen was fearless as he charged forward. Fong Qingzhou was angry and anxious as he tangled with Qinfen. Bang! Crack! Rumble! The two were evenly matched. After 70 or 80 rounds, there was no clear winner. Fong Qingzhou's face gradually became anxious as he roared. Unfortunately, Qinfen was not moved. In terms of status, he did not need to be afraid of Fong Qingzhou. As time passed, Fong Qingzhou was gradually at a disadvantage. When the finger technique clashed with the firm and fierce palm technique, there was a slight effect of being restrained. In addition, he was impatient, so it was obvious that he was going to lose. Boom! Qinfen seized the opportunity and struck an empty space with his palm. His palm imprinted itself on the opponent's chest. Ah! Fong Qingzhou cried out in pain as he flew backward and landed outside the ring. He, the previous Gold King, was completely defeated. Fong Yun's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness, but due to his status and face, he couldn't make a move. Trash! After that, Fong Yun turned to Xia Linxian and said, This batch of students has been nurtured well. When he finished speaking, he slowly got up and prepared to leave. Xia Linxian smiled gently and said, Why don't you leave after watching it? There's also a competition to liven things up. Pausing for a moment, Fong Yun raised his butt and sat down, casually looking at the ring. Jiang Deacon had a smile on his face as he placed the golden crown on Qin Feng's head. Congratulations. Qin Feng was exhausted. He took a few deep breaths and looked at Jiang Shuetching excitedly. He had obtained the Golden King. However, Qin Feng's smile froze. At the most glorious moment of his life, the woman he loved did not pay any attention to him. Instead, she was staring at the mysterious man in purple. Qin Feng was furious, and he shot a furious glare at Su Yu. Referee, the Gold King has the right to challenge someone, right? Qin Feng's eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at Su Yu. No matter who the man in purple was, anyone who stole his woman was an enemy. As for that trash Su Yu, he could temporarily put him aside. He could challenge him a second time later. Jiang Deacon nodded. All right then, I want to challenge him. Qin Feng was filled with fighting spirit as he pointed at the man in purple standing on the stone pillar. Wow, the crowd was in an uproar. This mysterious man in purple was unimaginable. His identity was shrouded in mystery. No one would have thought that the first person the junior duke wanted to challenge would be him. Jiang Deacon was also puzzled. This person looked familiar, but he did not know who he was. Su Yu slowly opened his eyes that were as deep as the starry sky. He looked down at Qin Feng and said calmly, Rest well before you challenge him. Otherwise, you will have an unfair advantage. Qin Feng was in a state of exhaustion, and his strength was less than 70% of his normal level. You don't have to worry. Qin Feng's fighting spirit was ignited. Only by defeating him in front of Jiang Xueqing would he be able to vent his anger. He took out a precious elixir from his robes and swallowed it. His exhaustion disappeared, and his physical strength and vital energy quickly recovered. As expected of the junior duke, he ate a vitality-replenishing elixir that cost 1,000 taels of silver. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with anger. "Fight me." Su Yu's purple robe and black hair fluttered in the wind. His handsome face glowed, and a wispy voice floated from his mouth. "I have waited for this day for too long." Whoosh! The purple shadow was like the wind, like the shadow of a white cloud. It was elegant and free, like duckweed floating on the waves of a river. Xiao Linxian had a curious expression. Stage 3 top class of cloud shadow? Other than the 10 great demon students with extremely high levels of comprehension, who else could cultivate it? Yi Xian, who is this person? His cultivation base is at level 4 lower tier. Why have I not heard of him? Yi Xian had a blank expression. He looks familiar, but I do not know who he is. A hint of surprise appeared on Xiao Linshuan's face, and he could not help but laugh. Interesting, this battle does not seem to be as simple as adding to the fun. As he glided across the arena, Su Yu stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His deep eyes were extremely calm. Jiang Zhishur could not see through the noble young master in front of him, and said politely, "If you are not willing to accept the challenge, you can choose not to fight. He is the Gold King. He can only challenge the Silver King." Su Yu calmly waved his hand. "I have waited for this battle for too long. How can I not fight? All right. The Gold King challenges the purple-robed man. Let the duel begin." Jiang Zhishur had forgotten to ask for his opponent's name. Qin Feng looked at Jiang Xueqing coldly. Her gaze was still focused on him, and her eyes were filled with anticipation for the purple-robed man's victory. Qin Feng was furious, and he had the intention to kill. He was her boyfriend, but she was cheering for an outsider. Great tablet Buddha's palm. Qin Feng attacked furiously, his vital energy and physical strength pushed to the extreme. The shadow of his palm was like the wind, swallowing and spitting out powerful energy. Su Yu's expression was calm. He did not move, but when he did, his purple robe was like a shadow. Tempest. As he lifted his leg, a cold wind blew. A white mist of cold energy suddenly appeared, surrounding the leg technique. It swept forward with the force of the cold. Crash! Qin Feng retreated 3 meters. Su Yu retreated 2.5 meters. Hiss! Qin Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. He hurriedly shook off his ice-covered palms with a shocked expression. "You've cultivated Tempest?" Qin Feng could not believe it. The famous leg technique on the 2nd level of the Depository of Scriptures was extremely difficult to comprehend. It could be said that it was the most difficult technique to cultivate on the 2nd level. Many people had their eyes on it, including Qin Feng. However, not a single one of them succeeded. The purple-robed man's successful cultivation was shocking. Xiao Linshuan's eyes glowed. "Yi Xian, check if he is from the Training Institute." At such a young age, he managed to comprehend Tempest to stage 2 top class. With his level of comprehension, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he is a demon. Yi Xian nodded his head, his eyes glowing. Su Yu smiled without saying a word. He closed in on him, ready to fight. Crash! The two figures intertwined, rising and falling. Rumble! Sometimes the wind from his palm was sharp, sometimes the shadow of his leg was cold. The two were different, and Su Yu was overwhelmed. Unknowingly, the audience stood up, gasping in amazement. Looking at the terrifying purple-robed man, they could not understand why the Training Institute had such a strong martial artist. A cup of tea's time passed. The two were still fighting, exchanging no less than 30 blows. Jiang Zhishur was secretly surprised. He was a level 4 peak, but the battle power of the two was close to that of a level 4 peak. Jiang Xueqing's beautiful eyes flickered, her breathing rapid, her breasts rising and falling. Her beautiful eyes followed the purple shadow. She clenched her fists, her heart pounding. Too strong. He was evenly matched with Qin Feng. Good, good, good. To think that there is such a hidden student in our training institute. Xiao Linxian was overjoyed, his eyes smiling. In the corner of the viewing platform, the three celestial beings watched with interest. That's strange. Who is that purple-robed man? The teenager with thick eyebrows and big eyes was about to scratch his scalp. His heart was itching. Tempest is a leg technique that is no less difficult to comprehend than a top-class technique. He actually managed to successfully cultivate it. This person's comprehension and aptitude are not inferior to us, the top 10 monsters. Who can tell me, where did this kid come from? The celestial being's beautiful eyes were overflowing with color. She looked at her happy father, feeling gratified. Her father would only be happy if there was another talent in the training institute, and she would also be gratified by her father's happiness. The silver-haired youth slightly frowned, his nostrils flaring. Nothing great. In my hands, you are just a piece of trash. On the arena, Punkacha. As time passed, the difference between the two gradually became clear. Qin Feng gradually could not hold on, his entire body covered in frost. His eyebrows, hair, arms, and face were pale. I will not lose. Qin Feng roared, using all of his vital energy and physical strength. He also used all of his 18 supplementary techniques. As for Su Yu, his expression was calm, like the water of an autumn lake, without any ripples. From beginning to end, Su Yu only used Tempest, not any other techniques. Rumble. Finally, Qin Feng could no longer keep up with Su Yu's leg techniques. He was kicked in the face, flying out of the arena, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Qin Feng had been defeated. After 50 rounds, he had finally been defeated. The new Gold King had lost his first battle. Su Yu calmed his chaotic breathing, walking to the edge of the arena with his hands behind his back. He looked down at Qin Feng, whose mouth was covered in blood. You are too weak. You disappoint me, Su Yu said indifferently. He had defeated the enemy who had tried to steal his woman and set him up multiple times. He had also defeated the target that he had once wanted to defeat. Su Yu did not feel any sense of accomplishment. In the past, Qin Feng had been too strong to surpass in his eyes. But now that they were exchanging blows, Qin Feng was at ease. He had not even used his vital energy. This kind of victory did not make him feel any sense of accomplishment. Jiang Xueqing's beautiful eyes rippled, covering her red lips in disbelief. The purple-robed gentleman was stronger than Qin Feng. The phrase, "You are too weak," made her heart beat uncontrollably. The purple-robed gentleman was too strong. In his eyes, the Gold King could only be described as too weak. At this moment, the purple-robed gentleman had left a deep impression in her heart. The young girl's heart had been completely captured. The audience sucked in a breath of cold air. The mysterious purple-robed gentleman was incomparably strong. The Gold King, in his words, was only described as "you are too weak." At that moment, the audience wanted to scratch their heads. They were too curious. Was there such a strong student in the Martial Arts Training Institute? Qin Feng had been defeated, and the knot in his heart was slightly resolved. As he raised his head and looked at the boundless horizon, Su Yu felt that he was still too small and insignificant. His abilities were far from enough. Qin Feng was merely the son of the Qin country's duke. The Qin family's power had not been revealed in the slightest. Jiang Zhishir was shocked. He cautiously and politely stepped forward, cupping his fists as he asked, "May I know the purple-robed gentleman's name?" Chapter 31. Qin Feng, his mouth full of blood, Jiang Xueqing, the curious celestial being, Xia Linxian. Everyone was silent. They also wanted to know who this powerful young man in purple was. In the silent arena, countless gazes fell upon Su Yu. Su Yu felt a little helpless as he took out his student number and threw it to Jiang Zhishir. It was a pure silver student number with a hint of gold. Holding the student number and looking at the two names, Jiang Zhishir felt as if he had been struck by lightning, dumbfounded and in disbelief. "You are the Silver King, Su Yu?" Jiang Zhishir gasped, unable to believe it. In his mind, a poor and weak figure gradually overlapped with a noble, mysterious, and powerful figure in purple. He had always felt that the man in purple looked familiar. Only now, as the two faces overlapped, did his mind explode. The man in purple was the Silver King, Su Yu. The gold students were aghast. Impossible. How could a mere Silver King defeat the new generation Gold King? The new generation Silver King, Su Yu? How is that possible? The silver students felt as if they had been hit by a heavy hammer. Chen Tianan and Xian Lifei were dumbfounded. This mysterious, powerful, and noble man in purple was the Silver King, Su Yu. However, after connecting the two of them, they were extremely sure that he was Su Yu. On the VIP stage, Yixian gasped, "What? It's him? Impossible. A month ago, he was only at level 2 peak. Now he could defeat the Gold King." Xiao Linchuan's eyes glowed, stunned for a moment, then laughed. Good. What a Silver King. Hiding his strength and shocking the world with a single brilliant feat, he is the first in the history of the Institute to suppress the Gold King as a Silver King. At the 10 great demon students, the celestial being suddenly stood up, her eyes filled with shock. Her seductive lips formed an exaggerated O shape. How could it be him? In her impression, Su Yu's archery skills were top-notch, and his talent for cultivation was not bad. But how could he be so amazing? The thick-browed, big-eyed youth laughed and patted his head. "Haha, so it's him, the silver boy from the depository of scriptures. Isn't his transformation a little too drastic?" The silver-haired youth frowned in disgust. "So it's silver trash. What a weakling." The celestial being in the painting and the thick-browed, big-eyed youth could both see that the silver-haired youth was angered by his shock. It seemed like Su Yu's previous performance had already surprised him, but he was not willing to admit defeat. Qin Fen's expression was lifeless. With his mouth full of blood, he looked comical and ridiculous. In his eyes, a piece of trash who couldn't even withstand a single blow had defeated him fair and square, and even gave him the evaluation of being too weak. The cruel reality was hard for Qin Feng to accept, and he was stunned on the spot. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with confusion and confusion. Her face was still filled with excitement and a smile, but her expression was as stiff as a winter flower. Her beating heart at this moment was like an icy spring, extremely cold. After a long time, she shook her head, refusing to believe the truth before her eyes. "No, he isn't. How could he be Su Yu? How could he be the person I abandoned?" Jiang Xueqing felt like she was in a dream. She had heartlessly abandoned the man who loved her deeply, deeply hurting him because she wanted to pursue a man who was suitable for her. Now, she had finally found her heart, found a man who was suitable for her, but she discovered that this man was the man she had coldly abandoned. The contrast between the past and the present, the laughable karma, made Jiang Xueqing feel like she was dreaming. The person she loved was the person she had abandoned. What was even more laughable was that he had once loved her so much. The silence turned into a clamor. "You're lying. How could he be Su Yu? He's completely different." "Impossible. The difference between the Silver King and the Gold King is immeasurable." Jiang Zhisher gasped. The kid the Duke of Qin wanted to deal with had actually climbed to the level of the Gold King. He knew that he could no longer attack Su Yu. With such nature-defying talent, he would be nurtured by the Institute as a reserve demon student. He, Jiang Zhisher, would not be able to touch him. When the students accepted the reality in front of them, that the mysterious and powerful purple-robed man was once the Silver King, countless looks of admiration and respect shot towards him. They all knew that from that day onwards, Su Yu would soar. No one could suppress him anymore. No one could strangle him anymore. He would be the legend of the Martial Arts Training Institute. As the Silver King, he had defeated the Gold King, a legend that no one could surpass. Xiao Linxian threw his head back and laughed. Good. Our Martial Arts Training Institute has gained another genius. A level 4 lower tier defeating a level 4 upper tier. Such talent was comparable to the 10 great demon students. Clang, rumble, thump, 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 At that moment, the entrance to the arena was forcefully broken open. 20 black troopers charged in with a murderous aura. They lined up on both sides of the entrance, welcoming the arrival of a certain important person. The black troopers of the Duke's mansion. Xiao Linquan's expression changed. Yi Xian also felt that things were not looking good. The Duke of Xinyu was one of the 3 most powerful dukes of the Fenglin Empire. He had great influence in the imperial court. At the same time, his personal cultivation base had reached level 6 of the martial path, and he had groomed a group of level 5 strong fighters. The Black Armor Guards were the most famous bodyguards. In Xinyu Prefecture, the black troopers were an invincible existence. With 100 of them, even a level 7 of the martial path would have to retreat. In the Empire, the Duke of Xinyu held great power, and no one dared to offend him. Fang Yan slightly frowned. Even he had to be wary of the members of the royal family. This was because the members of the royal family were the descendants of the Holy King. In other words, the Holy King was once the old emperor. How could Fang Yun offend the descendants of the Holy King? Xiao Linxian flew down, his expression grave. He gazed at a handsome, middle-aged man, who looked like a monarch descending from the heavens, walking over with extraordinary dignity. The Duke of Xinyu, what brings you here? Xiao Linxian was extremely surprised. He and the Duke of Xinyu had a good relationship. Now that he had charged into the training institute with such a murderous aura, it was unbefitting of the Duke of Xinyu's character. The Duke of Xinyu's expression was normal, but his eyes were filled with anger. Suppressing his emotions, the Duke of Xinyu cupped his hands and said in a deep and dignified voice, "I am sorry to disturb the Duke of Xinyu. I am here for one person. A month ago, I put him on the wanted list. Today, I found out that he is a student of the Training Institute. In order to prevent the news from leaking out and allowing him to escape, I acted so rashly." Xiao Linxian heaved a sigh of relief. He had heard that the Duke of Xinyu had been searching for an archery genius in the last month. He didn't expect that such a wanted criminal was actually hiding in his academy. Does the Duke know his identity? I will assist you in capturing him. Xiao Linquan's gaze turned cold. The Duke of Xinyu was an upright and outspoken person. Since he had put a wanted list on the wanted list, he must be an unforgivable criminal. Suddenly, from behind the Duke of Xinyu, a petite beauty appeared. She had a sharp chin, watery eyes, and skin as delicate as spring snow. She looked like an adorable porcelain doll. The young princess, dressed in a light yellow dress, furiously wrinkled her small nose. "His name is Su Yu. This perverted scoundrel. We are here to capture him. Where is he?" It turned out that ever since the Duke of Xinyu had received clues about the Blazing Lion, he had searched the entire city. Coincidentally, Li Minghe was questioned. Even more coincidentally, he happened to be in the shop that day. After a brief confrontation, he immediately revealed that the man who sold the Blazing Lion was the Silver King, Su Yu. Thus, the identity of the perverted criminal who violated the young princess was revealed to the world. Swish, swish, swish. All eyes were on the noble purple figure on the arena. As the Silver King, he had suppressed the Gold King and created a legendary genius. They were at a loss, puzzled, doubtful, and gloating. Qin Feng squeezed out a malicious smile. "You brought this upon yourself. In the end, you still lost miserably." Jiang Xueqing was in a daze for a long time. She still could not reconcile the poor and weak Su Yu in the ravine with the man in purple she loved. At this moment, hearing that he was wanted by the Duke of Xinyu, she did not know why, but she felt much more relaxed. "Su Yu, this is the best fate for you. Without power or influence, no matter how gorgeous you are, you will still end up the same." Jiang Xueqing no longer looked at the figure in purple, quietly muttering to herself. The celestial being could not believe that the perverted criminal who violated the young princess was Su Yu. Whoosh! The celestial being was as graceful as a flower, her body as light as a swan. She flew to the door with a hint of pleading on her face. "Uncle, is there a mistake?" The Duke did not answer, but the young princess pulled on the celestial being and whispered in her ear, "Humph, there's no mistake. The fire dragon, snake skin on your body belongs to this guy. Suddenly, the young Canton princess slapped her white jade forehead and suddenly realized, oh, so the person who saved you is this guy? Sister Jingyu. He must have sucked your breasts while you were unconscious. That perverted criminal. The young princess pouted, her eyes wide open. She fiercely waved her fist. I will not forgive him. Boom! The celestial being's mind exploded. It's him. It's really him. Before she fainted, that pair of eyes as deep as the stars, that pair of familiar eyes, was actually Suyu. Gratitude, joy, and joy welled up in her heart. As for whether she had been violated, the celestial being was certain that she had not. Uncle, I hope you understand. After all, he was desperate to save the young princess. The celestial being's eyes shone as she pleaded with the Duke of Xinyu. This was what gave the Duke of Xinyu a headache. He had always been clear about rewards and punishments. Suyu had saved his daughter and should have been rewarded, but the other party had indeed violated his daughter's chastity. It was difficult for him to decide how to deal with him. His only thought was to give his daughter an explanation, to at least give her peace of mind to prevent her from hindering her martial path. Xiao Linxian had a strange look in his eyes. His daughter looked calm and indifferent on the outside, but she was upright and proud on the inside. This was the first time she had pleaded with someone. Duke, could there be a misunderstanding? Xiao Linxian felt his heart ache for such a genius. The Duke of Xinyu slowly shook his head, his eyes cold. Men, take Suyu down. He was stubborn, and no one could stop him. The celestial being was anxious. Biting her red lips, she walked over to Feng Qingzhou, enduring the humiliation in her heart. Feng Qingzhou, can you ask your father to step in and protect him? Only Feng Yin could stop the Duke of Xinyu. How humiliating was it for someone as noble as her to plead with a bastard who had once tried to defile her? Feng Qingzhou's eyes had already turned cold. This was the first time he had seen her so concerned about another man.